God is my witness, they watching my moves like shows they binging. Hey, best keep distance, all of my haters send best of wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness, no I don't need no assistance, no. Yeah, no playing it safe, I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say, you ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Yeah, got no time to waste, can't be with me if you not at my pace. You not at my level, you not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. You dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. Yeah, by any means. I gotta get it, don't mind it. I gotta get it, don't mind it. I gotta get it, don't mind it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of BMW SIM GT Cup. Before we start the cars, however, we first have to fire the ignition with our fourth episode of BMW Sim Ignition, where we'll cover all things esports and BMW related. And this week, it isn't just about who's P1, but it's a little bit about T1, one of the most professional and successful organizations in all of esports. We're going to be chatting with them about their success so far in 2022. First, though, before we do that, I think it's only fitting that we take a look back at race 3 from the BMW Sim GT Cup, which was at Sebring, and it saw a daring last lap move from Phil Danes over a desperate defense of Patrick Holzman and Team Redline to give BS Competition the win. Check it out.
Green flag flies and Daniel Gubay punches it down into turn number 1. Great start from the Spaniard. Down the inside looks Team Redline Purple trying to make it 3 abreast as they funnel their way down into turn 1. BS Competition almost shoveled off into the gravel.
Oh my goodness. Race control only really affects when it's inside of the top 10.
G being squeezed to the outside is the Roman Grosjean Esports. Number 8 machine Vlad Kimichev will cycle in front of Valtteri Alander, or at least hold off Valtteri Alander. Be the ones to decide. Bit of snaking going on. Redline Purple, they've lost out the last couple of laps as well. And here comes Jamie Fluke taking full advantage. And I think good move from McEwen.
I'm pretty sure it's double digits.
Down the inside of Luke McEwen.
He welcomed, especially not if 89. If that was a bold dive down the inside of Antiola.
Yeah, that's a send. Ahola gives him just enough room, but you can run wide, get the momentum, but he's escorted off into the grass. Good car control to keep control of that one.
Because this Triple Eight car did finish inside the top 5 last round. Obviously nowhere near it today, and that's not going to change as we're seeing a switch of position here. Kova up.
Down the inside at Sunset Bend, that's the preferred line, even though you can run all sorts of lines, and Kova's up into 4th, at least provisionally for now. Down to the last lap, and that is Antti Ahola going on the defensive and going on the offense as well, and losing out as Diogo Pinto. Chain reaction caused because Antti Ahola was trying to defend from Thies Simon. And there's more contact after the fact there. Again,
that's bad.
Just incidental
Battle for 3rd position. Alejandro Sanchez has absolutely been storming up this field, moves up into 3rd spot, and that is the first position for prize money. Does receive a little bit of a whack for doing so. Dinez is not going for it. I think he's waiting.
He's going to the inside, into the hairpin. That is going to be race control deciding the winner of this race. It's aggressive on the last lap. Phil Dinez has the lead, but how long will he hold it for? The Zebras gallop their way into victory lane once more after conquering Road Atlanta. They conquer the bumps at the Sebring International Raceway. Valiant defense from Team Redline, but that 71 car will come across the line in 2nd. Give a hand to Alejandro Sanchez in that 98 car that makes its way into the podium spots as well. Big drama all the way to the end.
With that last lap pass, it also meant that BS Competition, Phil Danes and Rainer Talvar took over the lead in the championship. Remember that despite the 2 drivers share the car, the drivers accumulate the points, hence why you see some differences down the order for people like Chris Lullum over Gianni Vecchio. Despite that they have been in the same car, the drivers are who qualify at the end of the year. So PS Competition leads the way over Redline. Apex Racing's Jamie Fluke, who's had a different teammate at just about every single round. Team Redline again, Diogo Pinto, who's definitely having a successful season in sim racing with Luke Bennett as his teammate. And then it's Alejandro Sanchez, Max Benecke, and Patrick Holzman, the car that nearly got the win at Sebring. And then Elvis Rankin and Johan Arth for the Apex Racing team, looking pretty solidly in the top 12 as well. So that's your top 6 cars in terms of team. And we'll see how it shapes out after this week. So that's your top 12, your top 6 teams, if you will, in terms of the championship. But we'll see how it looks after this week. Before we get into the sim action, however, I did say we want to focus on another aspect of the BMW esports family, one of the most professional and successful organizations in the entire world of esports, T1, and all of their involvement in Dota, League of Legends, Valorant, and maybe sim racing. I guess we'll have to find out. I mean, this is one of the best teams in the world, and therefore it's only fitting that we get to chat right now with none other than Joe Marsh. Joe, first, I guess, as we are talking about sim racing primarily on this show, we'll get to the other esports. What's your involvement with sort of a sim racing background?
So from a competitive standpoint, we don't have it at T1. For me, I grew up playing Gran Turismo. I spent my winter playing F1. But I've always marveled at, the ability to like have the rigs at your house and just straight up play. I think I've spent like half my time searching the internet trying to buy one of them or like scout them out. So we have like great monitors at T1, but like getting a Wii and the pedals and having it at the house. I like to drive myself in real life, so why not take it to the sim life? But with the pandemic too, I think sim racing's really taken off. They even had like TV broadcasts of it here in the States. So it's been cool to kind of see the growth of it and how people really kind of view it as one of the next big competitive sports. Yeah,
and look, obviously, like I say, people watching will know you guys with your BMW partnership through many different forms of esports, whether it's Valorant, whether it's most, I would say probably most for you guys, League of Legends, that would be the biggest one. But as I say, I do like this sim aspect because, I mean, look, you guys could probably get a partner pretty quickly. I'm sure there's lots of companies out there that would love to work with you guys, but it is kind of the most closely related to the real world counterpart. So like you say, and before the show, we were kind of chatting, you and I, a bit about sort of what you've done in real life. And you even said you jumped on F1 and because you're hoping to go overseas this year. I mean, what is your direct involvement and where do you see maybe T1 getting involved if you do?
Yeah, I mean, kind of similar to what I see G2 doing. I remember texting Carlos a couple months back, asking him about sim racing, what they're doing there. And I've always interested because I love the idea of having any kind of in-game skin with T1's logos all over in a game. So like, if there's an opportunity, in the future, I certainly want to like take a look at it because I think it's fun. I think it's just, you look at the heavy competitive aspect of what we're doing with League and Dota and Valorant. I want a different style game that's not necessarily, based on fantasy or magic, something that's a little more grounded in earth. And I'm not going to go start a FIFA team, and I'm not going to get an NBA 2K team. So, for me, racing is a natural opportunity. And with our partnership with BMW to get into one of their cars in game could be a nice little fit for us.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think that's super cool. And like you say, I mean, I see both sides of it, being involved in both Counter-Strike for me, and then obviously a big fan of all of the esports you mentioned, but also being in sim. And I get your point, because there's something endearing about the other esports in the fact that you can't replicate them. They are their own thing, but then there's something very, very, I guess it draws people. What is it for you, I guess? Because for me, I think it's, I have a racing background. I don't have a budget like a lot of other racers. When I want to race, I can, like you say, sit anytime I want at my sim and go at it. But what do you think? Maybe less people with a racing background. What excites people about sim racing as you see it?
Well, I think, majority of people that are watching, drive cars, and, it's, I know what I drive. Like, I'm competing next to the guy next to me trying to pass me, right? Like, make sure he doesn't get ahead of me on the lane. So I think it gets you kind of, it's a natural competitiveness when you're driving, and it's something that all of us typically can do. I can't click heads. I can't play League of Legends very well, but like, I can drive a car, maybe not as fast as others, but so like, you feel like has a little bit more of a level playing field. But I've seen the sim racing, like, these kids are out of their mind. I saw like one of the kids, it was like sim racer for F1, like, is now racing in the league, like,
yeah,
F2.
Bassi. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that just shows you, I mean, the level of prep, I'm assuming, is probably the same as traditional sports, same as other competitive esports. So there's a lot of work. Like, everyone sees the finished product when the race day, but like, there's hours and hours and hours that go into prepping for sim racing or other games. So it's just like traditional sports, where you're putting in the work, and then those that put in the most work typically reap their most rewards.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because obviously with League of Legends and Dota and Valorant, you're putting in hours, thousands of hours leading up. Dota, especially for something like the TI, I know you go through your majors and your qualifications, but in every other event, every split for League of Legends, and obviously Valorant, they're in Iceland right now. I would argue that the prep is very similar, and that it takes years of time to adapt to. So it's cool that you mentioned Jem Bassi. Speaking of development, the youth development, Sim's only at its very kind of beginning, which I think maybe is more exciting for organizations such as yourself to get into. But do you see it as something, as even a tool that could potentially develop young players more so than what you get with rosters? I know a lot of teams are doing academy teams now, but more so than even rosters in it's a weird term, Joe, but traditional esports.
I know. I can't believe we're getting to the point where we have traditional esports, but I mean, I believe in the kind of the academy and educational system, and the rinse repeat of it all. You look at our League of Legends kind of infrastructure in Korea. We have 3 rosters: the main LCK roster, our challenges roster, an academy roster made up of young kids. But we also just launched an esports academy, where we're training kids that are 14, 15 years old, that if they show high potential, they come on to one of our rosters. So I believe in that kind of system. I think there's no substitution for like work on the Rift, and the same thing with sim racing. There's no substitution of getting behind the wheel and practicing and putting the hours in. And you'd be surprised, like, there are kids that might be average to start, but if they put the work in, they learn the techniques, they learn the courses, all of a sudden, because it's such a repetitive motion that you're doing, right? It's all about positioning and where you are, and making sure that you don't have a slip up. That's, those hours in the chair and behind a car and on the Rift, it allows you to get better. And I think with the younger generation of gamers, you start early. If you're at 13, 14, 15, you'll have exponential growth versus someone like me who's, I probably missed my window to be a competitive anything at this point, but I believe in the youth.
Yeah, well, so it's interesting. So focusing on that academy aspect from you, you're a father, I assume.
Yeah, father too.
So I am not, but working in esports, I get asked all the time, if I had kids, how would I approach them gaming as someone who works in the industry? And my answer is always, I still want them to be involved in outdoors and team sports with real life communication and interaction for the sake of, development. But, even if I look at my youth as a hockey player in Canada, you had practices and you had teams and you had development, and now esports is just getting to that. I mean, how do you see your kids being involved with gaming? And if they are to take that approach, this academy aspect, how does that change this sort of whole entire game?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like my kids, they both play traditional sports. I think it's my wife played softball at Penn State. Like it's important to have the traditional side of it because it's all about communication and teamwork, right? My oldest daughter games. We play Valorant together. She's going on 11 years old, and it's really important. What separates pro gamers from regular gamers is communication. The reason the pro gamers are so good is because they talk and they know how to communicate and they know how to. It's not just about having your mechanical skills. It's important, but if you can't talk, you can't complete kind of the teamwork aspect of it. So for me, if my kids wanted to get into gaming, I'm certainly supportive of it. But they have to learn the right way, right? Like
And that's kind of why I asked this, right? Because you have the academy. So this, I assume, is kind of something you guys have thought about with the academy. Like, what is the right way? Psychological. Obviously, you're teaching them the aspects and the meta of the game using some of the more experienced players. But yeah, I guess this is where I'm trying to tie it all in, is how it all contributes to this academy approach.
Yeah, well, because I think what the biggest thing that the academy teaches you is how to be a good human in and out of the game. Because it's not just about how you are. It's like you can't be toxic if you're going to be in the pro environment. So everyone gets frustrated in the game, whether you're driving or you're playing league. So like how to control your emotions, how to communicate, and how to work through the tough spots. That's what academy systems can teach you. That's why we go to school for so many years, right? Growing up, and that's why you look at traditional sports like hockey. Hockey does a great job with their academy. They have their junior hockey, especially in Canada. You have the minor leagues, but in America we have like you send them to prep school and high school, and then you get college scholarships or you go to the USHL. Like there's infrastructure that's in place for traditional sports. Minor league baseball is another example.
Yep.
Gaming, there hasn't never been an incentive, especially in the West, to invest in academy systems. That's why you see a lot of teams buy foreign players, and that's what they do. And in Korea, we build up the talent of tomorrow because in Korea, going into the academy system, leaving school at 8th grade, parents are committed to letting their kids chase their dreams. So it's not frowned upon. It's a means to an end. Whereas in America, it's you have to go to college, you have to do this and that. Like it's not the systems aren't in place, the infrastructure's not in place, so it's not as common. But in Korea, we're fortunate to, as a societal piece, that we have the infrastructure not only from the gaming side, but also the public transportation system to get you to the facilities, get you to the PC bongs. That's just equally as important. And you're seeing companies like Nerd Street Gamers here in America, who we have an investment in. They're building out these American style PC bongs. And it's just, you need to get there via car right now. The public transportation is not there yet. Once that gets there and you're building these things in locations that are easily accessible, I think you'll see more and more kids have the ability to get into these academies or these summer boot camps to learn more skills.
I think, that's an interesting point. I never thought of sort of the summer camp aspect, because we used to go to summer hockey camp where you'd work on specifically skating for 1 week, or you could go do a stick handling course, or, the skills that often during a season you don't have time to break down. That's a cool point. But I like what you said about Korea and sort of the cultural aspect of it. Do you guys kind of look to even Europe to some influence, where now you've got in Denmark, you have esports courses? I know there's scholarships becoming more available in the US, and there are collegiate teams, but they tend to sort of be at the intramural level. Even if you play other schools, it's not really considered a varsity sport. I think that's the titles you guys would use in the US. It's a little different up here. Is that something that you guys look at and maybe are trying to influence and encourage more in the US?
No, I mean, for us, I prefer the kind of the Korean model. I think it's a model that's sustainable for gaming where it's at, and it's like an infancy. Traditional sports have been around so long that they've kind of tried the different practices, and now you look at college football as the feeder system to the NFL. That's why there'll never be a minor league for the NFL. I know like the Rocks League is starting up, and there's the USFL or whatever, but collegiate will always be that pipeline because they're all going to go to the NFL. Hockey and baseball have been different. You can get drafted out of high school or even scouted. We at the Flyers, we draft kids that are 17, 18, 19 that are going to juniors for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, some kids like Crosby come up right away. Other kids take years to develop. And you just not especially like, look at a goalie. You don't know, like you get Carey Price at 20 or you get, Maxime Ouellette, who didn't pan out, right? So like,
or famously the Islanders, Rick DiPietro, 17-year contract. I think he played like 2.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, well, that's a tough contract. It's like I know how those NHL contracts work. And that's on the books for quite some time. So like you just don't know, and it's about how you develop. It's also about the makeup of the individual, right? So, but I think if the West developed the academy system, and there was a reward to actually having homegrown talent versus buying, because you can't always buy everybody. Like, you have to have a roster of homegrown talent, free agents, and it gets too cost prohibitive, especially with salaries rising and revenues not pacing it. You can't always buy the best players, so you have to grow them, and that's T1. That's why we like to kind of grow the next generation.
Speaking of that, obviously it is a business still, and you've provided skill sets and assets to these young players, but you have been accused at times of maybe being too aggressive in that market. You've even traded with other BMW supported teams with Cloud9. How does that involvement, what's your response to that? Because like I said, it's a business, and is it more that you want to give these guys an opportunity, or is it more that you're trying to, set yourselves up for future success as well?
Yeah, I think from a market standpoint, I think other teams look at kids that come through the T1 system because you do have a system, right? That they're infinitely more valuable because they're going through T1's academy system. They've been on our rosters, and there's players that will certainly trade, and obviously there's a transfer fee market, but at the same token, I think the counter argument to what the comments people say is, we had a player named Teddy who is the same position as Gumayushi, who's the best 80 carry in the world, and we could have traded Teddy for $1 million, and instead I let him go free and clear to wherever he wanted to go because of what he done for the organization. Whereas other organizations, hold on to players, and each situation is different, right? Like, I don't begrudge someone for leveraging a contract or holding them and doing this. So it's each situation is different. But for us, we try to maximize the opportunities for kids because we only have 5 starting slots, and I don't want to ruin something. Your career is only so long, right? You have to 17 to typically 23. And that's probably it. So sitting on my bench for 2 seasons is not going to be valuable for you from an individual standpoint, from a growth standpoint. So we try to balance it out. Typically we move a lot of the younger players that are through the academy system or 1 year in our main roster. But I don't mind feeding players into the other leagues or organizations because we're investing in scouting and recruiting, and other teams don't. And if they want to buy the players from me, who's made a capital investment in their time and their well-being, I think that's a trade-off that, they're not paying money on the front end like I am. They're paying it on the back end when they trade for the players versus us, who's paying money for multiple years leading up to a transfer.
Yeah, you got all the development fees and the cost fees and the risk of going in, right? We mentioned the draft. Some players don't pan out. I'm sure it's similar within esports, right?
Exactly. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, very, very cool. Well, obviously, Joe, I don't think it would be appropriate to sit here and chat with you without talking about arguably one of the coolest things that T1 has done yet, the LCK spring split. And then obviously the Outlook MSI. You guys had a ridiculous split, arguably the strongest in the world. You guys had a perfect split, 20-0. Did you guys expect that was even possible heading into it?
No, LCK is one of the strongest leagues. Gen G is a tough competitor. So is Don Juan. They've been in the finals the past 2 years at Worlds. We knew that there was moments in the split that we thought like, hey, if we got past game 6, we could definitely go 10-0. And then things just started snowballing, and we had some breaks. There was a lot of COVID cases in Korea, so a lot of teams didn't have their full rosters. So we got a couple wins there that we'd like to play them at their full strength. But yeah, no, going 19-20-0, 18-0 in the regular, like, it's never the goal. The goal is to win the split. Like, we don't care if there's a loss in the loss column. But as we started going on, we were 16-0. We're like, you know what, like, let's just go wrap this thing up and try to do it. And we're fortunate that we were able to pull it off. But yeah, it's never the intention to go 18-0. It's just to win the last game, right? So, but we were fortunate to do it with the 0 in the loss column.
It's pretty. It's a ridiculously impressive achievement when you consider the competitiveness, like you said, of LCK. You said if there was points that you thought, okay, if we win here, we can keep going. Was there ever a point when you thought, oh, this isn't going to happen? Or was the pressure much greater at the end as you started to think, let's go for it?
I think, like, for us, us being, the gold standard in Korean League, everyone tries their hardest. It's like the Super Bowl for them every match they play us. So, for me, I think week 8, week 9, we played Kwangdong Freaks, and then we played Sandbox, and we dropped a set there, and then we had to come back. I think those are the two that I thought there was a possibility we might lose, but then we got through it. And then once we got to the playoffs, I was pretty confident that being the number 1 seed, we would have a good matchup. And then fortunately, we got to play Gen G at their full strength in finals and pull it off.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. What was it that sort of made the difference this year that was so strong about them? Was it sort of a mental aspect, or, I mean, look, I would say was it sheer talent, but obviously you have a very talented roster. So what was kind of the difference maker this split?
We didn't make any roster changes. We had played the same 5 guys each game, but really, I think it came down to the environment and the coaching. Polt, who was we installed him as our head coach last July after we fired our previous coaches, and he coached through Worlds. I just think the environment and atmosphere that he created was really the difference maker. Also, we did a boot camp with the kids right before the season started, where everyone got to air any issues they may have had. We had a sports psychologist there, and it was kind of mediating, and we got all of the laundry out of the way prior to the season. And this has been the best communication I've seen from our organization since I've been involved with it. And we, gone are the days where we only have one shot caller, which is typically how it does in game. All 5 players are allowed to make calls. And you hear a lot I watch scrims every single morning when we're playing, and you're hearing the communication is just up versus prior years. And also, I think the feedback loop and the kind of the coaches keeping the environment loose and not tight was really the biggest factors.
I was going to ask about sports psychology, because obviously we're seeing more in the Western world that it's getting involved in esports. It's been involved in traditional sports for a long, long time. Is this something that for the boot camp you brought one in specifically, or did said psychologists continue to work with them throughout the split as well?
Yeah, so we brought a sports psychologist in 2 years ago. We've players have access to her whenever they need her. For this boot camp, we brought in someone that had no idea who the players were and wasn't a gaming fan, because we wanted to give someone who wouldn't know
bias
Faker was a celebrity or whatever. And he was able to kind of break down each player and say, this is your personality type, this is what you do well, this is what you don't do well. And I think it allowed each player to understand, their individual teammates and how they need to communicate with each other, because everyone, needs to be communicated differently. You grew up playing sports, right? Each player gets coached a different way. If someone is motivated by being yelled at, then that's how you do it. Some don't need that. They need to be coddled and kind of armed around their shoulders. So, I think each player and the coaches being able to see, what communication style works best, because it's not one size fits all. Not every gamer is the same. You have to really kind of curate that. So I think for us, the mental aspect, considering T1 has such pressure to win, every single game and win every championship, we really wanted to make sure we took care of that. Culturally in Korea, that's not something that's typically done. So that's definitely something I brought coming from the Western side, but it's worked out really well for us. It allows the players an outlet outside of the organization too, to have conversations and kind of clear their head. And I think it was really vital to kind of our personal growth this past year.
Yeah, I think it's great that you guys are able to air that out. I think a lot of teams that I've seen at least bottle things up, and
you blow up, and then you have a big situation where it could be handled early on.
I think the metaphor is perfect. There's those little spinning tops. You spin them on the table. When it's spinning, everything's great. But as soon as it hits one thing, it starts pinging off everything else around it until it just stops. And I see that so often. So, yeah, very cool. Look, how did you guys celebrate then? Obviously, this incredible dream split. I know Koreans are a little bit different with their attitude to celebrations, but what did the team do?
So, unfortunately, we all got COVID.
Okay. Well, that's not ideal.
So we tested negative prior to the games, but after you could see it on the video that the players were getting sicker and sicker, and we figured out pretty quickly that something was wrong, and we tested positive after the game. So unfortunately, we didn't get to celebrate. But typically, when we do win games, we celebrate with steak dinners. So we go out, we go to a fancy restaurant, and we buy as much steak as possible. When we were in Iceland for Worlds, we were eating whale and horse and all sorts of delicacies over there in Iceland. And we try to do nice meals. When we clinched and broke the record during the regular season for the most consecutive wins, which was our own record that we broke in 2015, our chefs, we lived in a bubble. We didn't go out. So our chefs cooked us steak dinners at the HQ. We did a proper steak meal and just kind of celebrated together. But we do like to go out and have good meals together for our wins. And hopefully we keep winning, and Worlds is in America this year, so I'm pretty sure if we win the whole thing, we'll celebrate in a pretty big way. So I'm excited about that.
I think that's cool. Keep it classy. Sorry about the COVID.
That was tough, but we're all healthy now.
That's the good news. Everyone got through it. Yeah, the world we live in. It's crazy. You did just mention it. Obviously, home ground coming up for MSI. Huge expectations that you're a victim of your own success now. You went on this crazy split. Everyone's looking at you guys. What's the expectations and what sort of pressures are now on the team that weren't there formerly?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the expectations for us to win MSI. I mean, go 20-0 and arguably one of the best teams in the world, if not the best. So everyone will be gunning for us. It's in Korea, like you said, so added pressure there. T1's actually never played in an international competition in Korea.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, we didn't make Worlds in 2018 when it was there last time. So this will be our first time competing at home. Karya, our support, who's the best player in the world, probably MVP of the league. He's from Busan, where the event is, so he'll have a lot of family in tow. And looking forward to it. It's a good challenge. We have a lot of great things planned in and around the event. It's essentially a home match for us, right? The crowd. I've been to Worlds in Europe in 2019, and in Spain versus G2, and that was probably the loudest I've ever heard a crowd for a gaming event. And our room was underneath the grandstand, so it just shook the entire time. And I've been to playoff hockey in the States. That was equivalent to the loud and just the energy was awesome. I think you'll see the same thing with Korean fans at MSI for us, and I'm excited to see it.
Very, very cool. Would anything less than winning? This is a tough question. Anything less than winning be a disappointment at this point?
Yeah, I mean, look, for us, every year our goal is to win Worlds. So if we don't win Worlds, it's a disappointment. But there's 109 other teams that are disappointed when they don't win Worlds too. But our goal is to win championships. It's not to win domestic titles and do things like that with NFTs on them. But
sure,
we're here to win world championships, and we like international hardware. So it's a miss for us if we don't win MSI. But it's a long season ahead. Even if we win MSI, we're still not qualified for Worlds yet. So it's a nice to have, but our focus will always be on kind of winning Worlds.
Yeah, that's fair, and I think as it should be. Set your stars, set your sights accordingly. Before we close, you mentioned Carlos earlier in this interview, and look, they're another BMW team. They're at MSI. They won LEC. They've gone out on a limb and kind of tweeted at you guys. You got a message for Carlos? This guy does like to use his lips.
He likes to use his Twitter fingers more than his lips. But
true.
I mean, look, this is not 2019. And while you guys went on a run in the LEC is not the LCK. So payback's a bitch, and I look forward to seeing them in Busan.
Look, I'm gonna back you on this because down with Carlos, right? Carlos 0-3. He knows all about it. I've been there. I've seen it. I watched his face get crushed in front of my eyes. So I'm with you, Joe.
I'll make sure we find a great body paint artist for them too. I know they like to paint things on their body, so we can see if we can get some erasable paint for them.
Nice. Maybe set up a camera just on him so I can watch his emotions melt down in real time again.
Yeah, I would love they have the crying Jordan meme in the States. I would love the crying Carlos meme. Would be great.
Awesome. I'm into it. I'm all for it. Listen, dude, good luck. I think it's going to be fun to watch MSI obviously coming up and continue to see the development, obviously, of the Valorant team, the Dota team, and what else T1 can do in the esports landscape.
Awesome. Thanks very much for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, there you go. Very cool to listen to Joe. Obviously, even though he's based in the States, very involved with the Korean culture and aspect of League of Legends and hands-on, as we said. And I love picking the minds of those behind the team, because there's a lot that necessarily fans don't see the psychology of it. Obviously, look, they've got an incredible season behind them, winning that split as they did, but now they've got Worlds coming up at MSI as well. So best of luck to T1, and I can't wait to see how they perform. It is time now, though, to get into this race. It is time to join the BMW SIM GT Cup and our lovely commentators. This week's a little bit different because even though we just had the Nürburgring 24-hour on the Nordschleife, we're doing the GP circuit all day long. Let's go.
After 3 races in the 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup, we travel across the Atlantic to land up at the home of German motorsports. We're live from the Nürburgring for round 4 in your 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup. What a roller coaster of emotions it's been so far. What will we see here today up in the Eifel Mountains? Hello everyone and welcome to RaceSpotTV wherever you're watching around the globe. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Alongside myself, our junior Kanky buddy is Lewis McLeod. Reminder, you can follow along with live timing and scoring by heading to racespot.wtf/BMW. And Lewis, it's been a while. Seems like we say that every time we go racing again in this BMW M4, but great venue. The last time we were here was in the BMW M8, so rather different affair to what we would have seen midway through 2021, but I'm sure we're still in for the same great racing in the BMW SIM GT Cup.
Yeah, obviously it was a month ago since we last went racing, and we always have a lot of fun here. We always enjoy our racing. We've now come to the 4th best layout of the 2nd best track in the world. Gotta go at you there a bit, Arjuna. Of course, when we went racing a month ago, BS Competition taking that victory. I think when we started the season, it was all about Redline versus Apex, and BS Competition have used that to sneak their way to the front.
We'll talk a bit more about the history in a couple of moments' time, but plenty of storylines heading into this round of the championship. Let's look at the schedule. Let's talk about where we've been, where we're going. 3 races synonymous with the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. High banks of Daytona, the rolling hills of Braselton, Georgia, and then the bumpy Sebring International Raceway. We make a trip across the Atlantic before we fly back across the pond to Watkins Glen, but the second half of the season is where, if you ask me, things get interesting. A visit to Spa, a visit to Barber, a place like Silverstone, a place like Suzuka, and you think about the schedule, Lewis, and the thing that stands out to me, if there's a team that's on the cusp of making it to BMW Sim Live when all things are said and done, Suzuka is a notoriously difficult place to pass.
But it's a circuit which is it's a driver's use. It's a specialist circuit. It's one of those ones where we do tend to see drivers really match that track very, very well, courtesy of it being such a difficult racetrack in general, let alone when it comes to passing. But we have seen some great moves. We went racing there back in 2021. You'll remember it. It was in the M8, yes, but there was contact between 2 pretty heavyweight names in the sim racing and motorsport world. It was Josh Rogers and Max Verstappen that day in contact in T1. So who knows what we could expect?
Yeah, I think I made the analogy. Is that going to be our version of Senna and Prost, Rogers versus Verstappen? Maybe hasn't worked out that way. Let's have a quick look at the format to run you through what to expect here today. Remember, there's prize money for every single one of these 10 races. Totals up to just over 40,000. And remember, BMW Sim Live 2021 total payout just under $80,000. So we're really building up a huge prize pool here. It's not just about top split. 2 splits of competition today. 250 iRacing credits will go to a random driver in that 2nd split. The point structure is familiar to all of you. 25 points for a victory, 10 for finishing in... 1 point for finishing in 10th. Got myself all sorts of reversed and flip-flop there. Fastest lap, we should note, it goes to the fastest driver, not the fastest team. So do keep your eye out for that. Let's talk about the road that we've been on so far. We started on the high banks. It was a photo finish, and Johnny Vecchio made it 3 in a row in BMW Sim competition at Daytona by kicking off the year. But since then, it's been about Reino Talvar and Phil Denez. A extraordinary display of strategy and pace in Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, and then last time out, a drag-out fight. Redline versus BS Competition coming to the final lap of the race. There was contact between Phil Denez and Patrick Holtzman, but at the end of the day, it's BS Competition 2 in a row that lead our standings here, Lewis.
Yeah, and for Max Benecke and Patrick Holtzman, it was kind of like the redemption race for them. 18 points was what they scored from that, and you can see, based on that, if you remove that, they had 2 points and 1 point going into Sebring. So they're now inside the top 10, not looking super comfortable, of course, to be in Sim Live, which is miles away. Let's not focus too much on that, but they're starting to make progress after a fairly poor start to the season. For the likes of Vecchio and Lulham, they need to make a little bit of progress if they're racing here today, but BS Competition, they've found something, not only through strategy, but in pace as well. They are looking like the dominant force right now, looking at both those 2 very different race victories, one on strategy and one just on pure pace.
Well, to some degree, both of them were strategy, right? The first race was about getting the gap and then building on it. The second race was about them taking 2 tires and Redline taking no tires, and how that played out. And it took until the final lap for us to figure out where that went. So still a long way to go. We'll talk more about the standings as we work through the year. Here's a look at our venue for today. It is, as Lewis says, the 4th best layout of the 2nd best track in the world, but
Thanks, man.
We're not running the full green hell, which would have been a sight, and for a lot of these drivers, they would have had to practice, because we've just finished up the iRacing 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. Instead, we don't head left through the Sabine Schmidt curve, we hug a right, we round ourselves through the final corner here. Passing's going to be difficult, though, at this just over 5-kilometer facility. Turn 1's a good opportunity. You can battle through the Mercedes-Benz Arena, but you're really not wanting to do that. Down the hill into the Dunlop hairpin, that's an opportunity as well. And then the slower chicane, that might be somewhere where we see sends being made.
This thing, some people are going to get quite desperate in this. You get the feeling, obviously, with the tighter chicane, it opens that as an overtaking opportunity. When it's the fast chicane, it's kind of a bit harder to get alongside because the braking zone's obviously not very long. But running that tight chicane, it is wide open for a good old cheeky send. And if not, you're going to try and get them offline before running into the 15th and final corner of this very difficult racetrack. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm sort of 50-50 on it. It's not an easy one.
Do you remember? Look at these track conditions. It is cold. All the concerns that we had about tire wear and tire life at Sebring, I think get chucked out the window here today, Lewis. I don't think we're in for that same sort of a unscripted, I don't even know what the right word for it was, but it was dramatic. I think today we are looking at a pure sprint, 21 degrees down on the track itself.
Yeah, it's pretty chilly out there. It means that things should be maybe a little bit more comfortable when it comes to that strategy as to how they're going to run. But of course, one of those things that we note is that there are slight changes when it comes to iRacing and moving over in the seasons, of course, on the iRacing service, which does mean that some teams might be sort of thrown out there a little bit with subtle changes between each car. And obviously, with it just being the M4 here,
yes,
that might throw them off on how comfortable they were in the car in the first place.
Well, here come the lap times. R8G have just jumped up to second, 3,000. Oh, and then the second R8G car comes, and Andre Melchers punches his ticket to pole position, robbing it from Chris Lolland with 70 seconds left on the clock. We'll monitor the times as they come in, but again, the margins are so fine. 21 cars split by half a second, and we've still got 5 left to set lap times. They include Arnage, 3 of the Arnage competition machines, and an Altus Esports entry. Still some very rapid teams yet to come and punch in some lap times.
Yeah, it's kind of, oh, there we go, the R8G Junior team. The R8G Junior team jumping up onto pole position.
Wow.
They are on fire today. R8G, 1st, 2nd, and 4th. Absolutely incredible. And you can see there as well, basically 0.2 of a second separating the top 10. Mind-bogglingly close, around not far off a 2-minute lap.
I dare you to say that name.
Nope.
20-odd seconds left in qualifying. I think we're done. Ricardo Rico is the only car yet to put in a lap time. 40 cars lining up today. We're not going to have much time to run you through the starting grid by virtue of the fact that they're going to start on the back straight just before the chicane, so we won't get much time at all, but what a lineup we've got in store for you. 3 dramatic rounds. What will the Eiffel Mountains hold in store for us here in round 4 of your 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup? The time for talk is done. It's time to go racing. With that said, let's run you down through the starting grid here today. And it's RAG locking out the front row, but it's the RAG Juniors that have topped the entire field. What a qualifying performance that is. But RAG looking in a good spot to get some great championship points on the line. Red line blue inside of a third RAG car where Valentin Mandenak rolls off on the outside of the second row. Danny Elgobe, pole position winner at Sebring, lines up inside of the 777 in Matti Sipula. Vildenez looking for history. 3 wins in a row with Luke Bennett on his outside, Tumas Tassila, Christopher Dambich, Makova, and Redline through the top 10. Beneke, well, not the best of qualifying again, but we'll see what his race pace looks like while Kane Halliburton rolls off in another one of the RAG contingent. Daniel Pastor for the Williams Esports Chill Blast will be inside of the Urano Sam Coit at number 91 with BS Competition and Williams Esports 15th and 16th. New driver there with Josh Ladd behind the wheel. Apex Racing Team and the Frenchman Johan Hart looking for a bit more better luck today compared to what he saw yesterday in the World Championship fold. He'll be alongside the PGZ and Bombay Spice. machine. Alejandro Sanchez and Luke McEwen, two very strong names, but down in 19th and 20th respectively, with Juan Bustamante for the Apex Racing Academy lining up alongside the Bombay Spice competition car, row 11. 23rd goes to the young Aussie Dylan Burst for Vendaval, while Leandro Anderucci will line up back in 24th. Ricardo Rico, Rafael Rizag for Arnage and Altus behind them. The NSH Racing Team 27th with the Simon in that Apex Racing Academy 199 next to him, Obsidian Racing and Williams Esports Razor through the top 30. Martin Stefanko and Zenith Esports, Williams and Zenith 31st and 32nd respectively. Carlos Diguez for Arnage and Claudio Mack for the Mechanic Racing Team 33rd and 34th. Row 18 sees Volante Racing and the VG Racing Esports cars, while Team Fordzilla, Urano, Sim3D Sport and R8G round off the field. Lewis,
good effort.
we got through it, didn't we? But now it's time for Mystic Lewis to rear his head. What are you expecting here today? Who do you think comes out on top?
Okay, so a little bit of stats with this season. Pole position is not a lucky one. Pole position has not been converted into a race win this season. Alejandro Sanchez, Luke Bennett and Danny Elgabay taking those. I am going with the number 72, Team Redline, who I think is going to be on top today.
You're counting against BS competition. Well,
I am indeed.
We'll talk more about the history, but the time for talk is done. Already picking up the throttle is RAG. We're underway for round 4 of your 2022 BMW SIM GT Cup, and that is aggressive blocking from the red line blue car on the run down into turn number 1. Couple of side-by-side moments as they all jockey for some track position. Down the hill they plunge. Be very careful to avoid running into the car in front of you. The top 20 or so get through there safely. Plenty of 3 wide activities, though, in the midst of the top 20.
Yeah, Valentin Mandanak did give a little bit of a nibble to the rear end of Chris Lullum as they'll all run side by side. Oh, there's a spin as well! That was the RAG Junior car! Oh my goodness! What happened? Was that contact or solo? I'm pretty sure it was solo.
I think it was solo, given how far they were in front of their teammate. Dylan Burst in the Vendaval car also has gone around, but it looks like other than those two, everyone else through safely, at least for the time being, and that's heartbreaking. RAG Junior, that was a statement. That was a statement of a lap there. And for now, they're going to have 2 hours to try and bounce back from that as we look at Chris Lullum in that red line blue car. You also notice new logos, new colors on the side of that car. We'll talk more about that later as well. Oh, you got a feel for the RAG Juniors.
I honestly don't even know what to say. That is rough. I'm going to give it a go. Ulas Ozildirim. We'll go with it.
There we go. Alejandro Sanchez wide through the Schumacher S. Another car gone wide as well. Vince Peters in the Volante Racing car. Got to be careful rejoining there, but Sanchez at the very least has managed to do that safely. The top 40 still only split by 17 odd seconds, so it's really not too bad. I see the Triple H run wide as well. There's all sorts of chaos here on the opening lap.
Goodness. Yeah, you got Williams Esports BenQ as well, slow a bit there, back up with our race leaders, and the RAG Esports number 8, Andre Melchers, leading, coming into the final corner. They're side by side in the background with the MSI Esports and Team Redline Purple. A little bit of contact as well on the rear end of Danny Elgabay as lap 1 is complete.
And what a lap one it was. Take a breath. Still got an hour and 58 minutes to go. RAG from Redline, from RAG, Kova, and MSI. Remember, the top 10 score championship points. Here comes a look down the inside of Danny Elgabay's MSI car by Luke Bennett, who also has Phil Denez with him for company. All this fighting is great. It does mean they're losing track of those in front of them. 1.6 seconds the gap up to Matti Sipula.
Yeah, Phil Denez going around the outside of Luke Bennett. Phil Denez in that BS competition car. He's still there going through the final part of the arena section, but kind of has to back out of it. Has to worry about the code behind, has to worry about the red line red car they battled with as well so much. But this time, of course, it's Phil Denez versus Max Benecke rather than Patrick Holtzman being behind the wheel of that red line red machine.
Oh, and the 78 RAG, so best number in sim racing, and a driver that we love. Premysław Lemonek has had a tow back to pit lane. Not sure what's happened to him. The RAG Junior car tries to fight its way forward, but he's all the way down in 30th position. So we will track that charge up through the field. The question really will be at a track like this, where are those passing opportunities going to present themselves? Top 4 still only split by 1.6 seconds as they work their way up the hill. Then you see that gap back to Danny Elgabay. It's going to take some pretty consistent lap times, you'd have to think, from that 3 car to bring the train, bring the peloton back into the fight for the win.
Yeah, it just needs to have the Team Redline Purple car essentially working with him right there and basically Luke Bennett needs to hold station, keep your eye on that four ahead, hope they start battling, hope the Team Redline blue car of Chris Lullum starts attacking, but it's in Lullum's best interests not to attack right now, just to sit, to wait. Yes, I know it's not the most interesting style when it's sort of sat there and saving fuel, but you're thinking of the long game in the race. You're thinking of playing your cards best for now. By the way, I will say, the Redline cars do look fairly fetching with the Red Bull Max Verstappen logos on the side.
What's going on here? Through the hairpin. Oh, there's a big puff of smoke. That's the Simon in the Apex Racing Academy car that's gone around. Not the first time that's happened this season. Meanwhile, his counterpart in Juan Bustamante. Oh, one way, then the other, trying to get past Arthur LeHook in that Williams Esports Razor car. 4 wide almost on the run down into turn 1.
Just absolute madness. Way down the order. This is outside of the top 20. They're 3 wide off the corner as Juan Bustamante is trying to stick it around the outside. You've got Max Humbert just directly ahead in that NSH racing car, who's diving it down the inside of Alejandro Sanchez. Sanchez should not be down this far down the road. And who is that in the R8G?
That's got to be Kane Halliburton. I've got, my word,
goodness.
1, 2, 3 of the 5, I think it was, R8G cars starting this race off in major stripe. To go back to something, sorry, Lewis, that you were saying earlier, it's not maybe the most attractive form of racing as fuel saving, but that's what these 2-hour races are about. What can you do to minimize the time in pit lane when you have to make your one and only stop, make your one and only driver change?
And this is the thing, is that everyone down the order here, they are scrambling to try and find their way up the order to go and grab a point. Look at, like, say, Alejandro Sanchez. I know, I think we could all take a guess based on the previous rounds of this season. That is a car that should be well inside of the top 10. It should be able to score points fairly consistently in this championship, as it will actually, there you go, just in the foreground there, make its way past the Williams Esports Razor car of Arthur LeHook. But when you're stuck down the order, you get desperate, you get feisty, you have to go for it, but then you get damage on the car and then you're definitely not making progress. So how do you play the long game down here? You kind of can't, you're stuck in the middle.
Yeah, I don't think there's a long game here, to be completely honest.
No.
Stefanko and Bustamante alongside on the run up into that slower chicane. You see behind them as well, Obsidian getting past the Mechanic Racing green car, looking for that opportunistic lunge as the RAG Juniors on the recovery. He'll have the inside line at the hairpin and should get on through as well, because that Obsidian car menacingly in the rearview mirror there as car got a slowdown through that chicane as well.
Yeah, NSH getting straight out of the way in, so Ozil Deerim in the R8G Junior car going to keep giving it a go.
Oh! That's the 150 that was around. I heard a big contact there, and Daniel Pastor.
What is happening?
What is in the air and what's in the water? I think that's a very, very good question.
Oh my, we've seen some chaotic rounds within the BMW SIM GT Cup. There's clearly a lot of damage on his car, so he's getting right out of the way.
Look at this!
Daniel Pastor. I've not seen a BMW SIM GT Cup race like this. The action is incredible. It's just manic and chaotic, and I'm kind of glad that the race control only deals with the top 10 right now, because everyone's having a field day right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Live race control, but only inside, I should say, of the top 10 for the points, the position that pay points, as that's the NSH Racing team that's got dumped now. We're going to have a good solid 10 minutes where we're just looking through replays. And the 198, the state of that front end, I think tells you all you need to know about what's going on here today.
This is just manic. More side by side here, running through the hair. We've got the Benjamin and Dylan Burst. See you, mate. He's off into the barrier. That was obviously contact with the Mechanic Racing green car of Claudio Mack as they're running side by side up the hill through the Schumacher-S, mate. We're going to be here all day with these replays.
That was clumsy, though. I think that's the best way we can describe that. Let's look out front. Let's hope we can calm ourselves down for now. You'll notice the gap is coming down. Danny Elgabe doing a great job to bring that gap, the buffer down to about 1.4 seconds. He's bringing Luke Bennett, Vilzenez, Beneke, Tatala, Koitert, Dan Beats Kessel all with him. This is a crucial portion of the race where, at least at the front, these guys very much have got to mind their P's and Q's and just focus on the task at hand. Let's take a breather and let's start to work ourselves through some of these incidents. So let's start with the R8G Junior car. Turn 3-ish, yet too hot, cold tires.
Yeah, just drove it into. I mean, that is so easy because you're. What? Did he just accelerate towards the pack ahead of him?
I think he was okay there. I think he was okay. Let's see if we can grab a look from up above. Dylan Bursch, the car on the inside just doesn't hit the apex at all.
Yeah, it's not pretty, I'll say that. The thing is, that turn 3 here, as you exit the arena section, it's so easy to run wide, to struggle for grip. You're on cold tyres. It is very difficult. Alejandro Sanchez is escorted off there. Is that a red line red car?
It might have been. I'm going to be honest. I'm just still trying to figure out where we should not be looking.
It is.
And Sanchez is all the way on the curve. There's not much more room for him to go off to the right-hand side. Then we saw something happen to Vince Peters, who, not sure if that was the same thing, but he runs himself wide. Where else do we need to go and look? Let's see what happened to Shlemislav Lemonek if we can. This is Danny Elgabe, excuse me. That's not what we want to be checking out. So maybe there was a technical issue for his machine in the final of the RAG cars. Let's then pick up what happened to R8. It's still looking at Danny Elgabe. That is definitely not right. That's Arturo Melgar in the 4. Yes, it was. And then you see the chain reaction that one causes.
Yeah, that's, of course, as the RAG Juniors trying to come back up the order.
That's not the Juniors.
Was it not the Juniors?
No,
the one that's coming through there?
The Junior is the lighter one. That's the darker RAG car. You can't even tell the number. It's so dark. So excuse us for not being able to pick that one up. But not the Junior. That's the Junior.
Here.
Junior was at the back of the pack.
Coming through here right at the end of it. This is just...
Oh
my. That was bad.
Yeah, this is suboptimal, Lewis. I think that's the only...
This is suboptimal. You're absolutely right.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. Okay, we're getting to the end of these replays, I promise. That's Arturo Melgar. He's clearly sustained too much damage. He was clearly done at this point. Now let's see if we can pick up what happens with Kane Halliburton, although I think this happened slightly later in the lap, so let's jump forward to there. It's too much for us to be looking at.
Yeah, there is a fair amount going on, so it was just a... That was just a solo.
Yeah, he goes mirror incident of what happened on lap 1 with the juniors. I wonder if that setup is just a little bit too maybe twitchy on colder tires. Now this is what happens to Pastor. Oh, Johan Harth. Oh, yep. You've missed your braking zone.
That is a solid F, if ever I've seen one. And yeah, easy to do going down there. You're downhill, you're kind of blind to the braking zone. You're trying to pick out, of course, your brake markers and stuff. That's Dylan Burst. I mean,
it's just clumsy.
I will say the car that he was trying to complete the pass on.
Oh my
really
word! Sorry, Lewis. There was more stuff that happened while we were looking at replays, and it involves not Danny Elgabe but Maximilian Benecke. What happens here off the corner? The two cars that squabbled at Sebring squabble once more.
I think there was a bit. I mean, there was going to be it was tight, but I think there was a touch of air there to push the red line, so to speak. And yeah, that was.
One more.
Tight racing.
Final replay, I promise you, Lewis. I think Anderutti's clearly got damage already. Because that car does not look healthy. And yeah, he's going to take it back to pit lane, isn't he? Yeah.
Wow, that is probably the most chaotic start that we've had in this championship in 3 years. But
it's a lot of replays, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, well, I hope everyone kind of calms themselves down. At least just a little bit. Maybe the top lot can get a little bit more feisty and a bit more fisticuffs at the moment, though. There is about a 1.4 second lead between Cobra and MSI.
Benecke's done. Benecke's on pit lane. Now, there is a fast repair, do remember, but in a race like this, only the top 10 score points. If you're outside of the top 10, you're done. It's basically, might as well call it quits. Kesselhut drops outside of the top 10, gets passed by both the red line yellow and red line orange machines. Still trying to catch our breath here.
If you were Benecke, you brought it into pit lane, what would you do? Would you continue, or would you go and watch? Would you just escape and then go and watch a certain Open World Championship?
I'd go support my red line. Well, I guess it's a good time for us to go and talk about that thing that I mentioned earlier.
They look fetching, I will say.
So you'll see two red line cars, one with different logos and a different base color to the other. You've got the black and yellow, red line yellow, and then the slightly bluish, familiar blue, and orange car right behind him. Of course, Max Verstappen, big part of Team Redline, has won races with them in the past, competed in this BMW SIM GT Cup before, but a new partnership with Red Bull, the drink company rather than Red Bull Racing, and Verstappen.com has led to this new look that you see on the side of your screen, on the side of this car. Luke McEwen, we should also note, has a new teammate today, Josh Thompson, making his Redline debut. We'll see how that works out in the long run. But we've got Red Bull Racing Esports, Oracle Red Bull Racing Esports, of course, affiliated with the main, Formula One team. this is very, very different. As that's a Urano car, very wide.
I did make sure to ask a few of the Oracle Rebel Racing esports drivers that I knew. I was like, is there any as in like, is this open the opportunity to work together or whatever, or are they in various championships? Like, nope, it is two very different things. It's just logos on the same car.
What is going on with Sam Coiter? Sorry, Lewis, but he is dropping now like a stone. I don't know what's happened to the balance of that car. Maybe he scrubbed the tires and overheated them. The thermodynamic build-up of the tires in iRacing, so important, but that 91 car having to go aggressive on the defense to stop Kesselhut from working his way past as well.
Mate, you can't use big words like that. Thermodynamics?
I have a bachelor's degree, Lewis. I am educated.
Like, straight over my head. I don't know. But I got some C's on my GCSEs. I'm not really sure what you're talking about, to be perfectly honest. But either way, you're absolutely right. Sam Coiter is clearly struggling a fair amount right now as he continues to drop backwards slightly, and now has the BS competition number 90, number 96, not confusing at all, to worry about behind.
Really. They're not trying to make our life easy at all.
Why would you put your number in your email?
To make it clear which one to register with. It's the only logical reason.
Yeah, but it's just like, don't.
lights flash from Kesselhut as he tries to work his way past Sam Coiter. Gap between 4th and 5th is down to 1.2, and El Gabay and Bennett have managed to break away very slightly from Dinez by virtue of that 89's contact with the red line red machine, but the red line blue car has got into the race lead. Chris Lullum, no real fight put up by Andre Melchers there, and I think that's the recognition and the realization that, you know what, let's save some fuel here.
Like you say, you don't want to sit out front all the time. What are you doing when you're sitting at the front of the field? You're pushing the wake of the air for everyone else. You're leaving that space for people to drive into, and essentially you're helping everyone save fuel. So you don't really want to help everyone save fuel. It is a competition at the end of the day, so it makes sense to pass, let someone else pass for a little bit.
Didn't realise this was a competition, Lewis. I thought
apparently so.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wisely informed that we're talking about a championship here where there's money on the line. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
So we did mention it earlier. Race control will only intervene in incidents inside of the battle for the top 10. And so one thing that I think might be on the steward's eyes is this start. Let's have a quick look at it. This block from Lullum, it's reactionary, and it's basically near as makes no difference into the wall.
It was way too much when it comes to that sort of defensive. I mean, we did see a couple of reactionary moves. I think it was even actually from Chris Lullum back in Sebring.
Yes.
And you know me, Arjuna, you've commentated with me enough. One thing that I absolutely hate in racing is dangerous reactionary moves. And I did see it on the start, and I was a bit like, ooh, be careful.
Now, do you hate it more than an unsafe rejoin?
No, I hate an unsafe rejoin more. I'm not quite to the level of Connery Maddock, by the way, but pretty bad.
Yeah, it's suboptimal is the best way to put it.
Another thing is yellow flags and people just keeping their foot in.
Yes.
There's only one time where that is acceptable and understandable.
So there's Luke Bennett, who's at the tail of the train. Now it's a 6-car breakaway at the front of the field. Kova have started to feed some draft to MSI. But Redline Blue, already almost a full second in front of Melchers in that number 8 car. So it's a pretty... Remember, he made this pass a lap ago, basically. In 5-odd kilometers, he's managed to almost break the toe.
Yeah, and I think this is kind of Chris Lullum's trying to take control of this race, right? He's trying to build a big enough gap where they don't have to worry about anyone else. They don't have to worry about the train. Just try and take off into the distance. In Formula E, Antonio Felix da Costa did this a couple of times a few years ago of basically timing it right. You know, sometimes trains do that, and it was just the timing. You save up enough so that you can burn and get going as Williams Esports BenQ get past the PGZ Bombay Spice car, which is only in 14th now.
I'm surprised that you called it. You were talking about Antonio Felix da Costa rather than talking about Sebastian Vettel, right? Who made his name and his world championships basically.
Yeah, but he ran away constantly. He ran away from the start of the race. Gotcha. Whereas it's more of a Marc Marquez or an Antonio Felix where it's like it's not running away from lap 1. It's running away from a certain point in the middle of the race. That's the critical thing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So 20 minutes in, basically. Let's finally talk about a little bit of the history that we were alluding to earlier on. So BMW Sim competition, at least here on iRacing, dates back to 2019, where we had the first running of BMW Sim Live. 2020 saw a season-long, a year-long championship, the BMW Sim 120. 6 races, 6 different teams, and 12 different drivers, all punching their way into victory lane. Since then, 2021, of course, saw a 2-part championship with the M8 GTE running the first 5 races, the M4 GT3 running the second 5 races. We did see repeat winners, most notably Josh Rogers and Mitchell de Jong going back-to-back with one another. Beneke did it with 2 different teammates later on in the year in the M4 GT3. Reiner Talvar and Phil Denez have a lot of work to do, but they're only about 4 seconds back from the leader. If they win today, it will be the first time in series history that a team and a driver pairing has won 3 races in a row. And I mean, BS Competition have won in every year of BMW Sim competition, Lewis, but I think it's fair to say, until this year, we hadn't really been looking at them as one of the big, strong teams to be watching, you know, race in, race out.
No, for the first couple of seasons, I mean, realistically, we were talking about it being Redline Coanda. You know, when we've seen them race, we kind of know of their strength within everything on iRacing, to be perfectly honest. BS Competition have always been able to sort of sneak a race win, and have been able to be like competitive for 1 or 2 rounds. But when it comes to their overall run in the championship, we've not really seen it. We kind of see races like what we saw over the last couple, and then races a bit close to this where they're running you know, further down the top 10, but still inside that sort of top 10 running. But I do think that there has been a slight change for BS Competition. I think they have started to feel a bit more confident with where they're running. It's just about whether they are actually going to contend for this victory. I still maintain, I know they're running in 7th right now, but I still maintain I don't think that car has looked particularly fast enough to really challenge the likes of the pace that we've seen from the RHEs, from Kova and from Redline Blue.
There's look on board with Matti Siepla in the first of the Kova machines. Still a long way to go. Remember as well, I love myself a bit of Phil Denez, and I think he is one of the best in the M4 GT3 specifically, but maybe it's fair to say that Reiner Talvar stole the headlines at the Road Atlanta race, and then you can't really judge what the first driver does in these races, Lewis, because so frequently drivers are not, and teams are not switching tires in the mandatory pit stop cycle. So that first driver is not only doing the fuel saving, he's doing a bit of tire conservation as well, just to make sure that that second driver has, well, something left to play with.
And then you're battling for the race lead, trying to hang on to all these cars behind you as well. It's like spinning plates. It's ridiculous. To win it in this competition is really, honestly, truly difficult. Where it's, you've got to juggle the tyres, you've got to juggle the fuel, you've got to make sure that those tyres are just about right for when your teammate jumps in. None of that is easy at the best of times, but in a 2 hours is still effectively a sprint race, right?
Oh,
you're
yes.
still going, you know, touring car style, bashing each other's doors in and stuff. It's madness. We've seen it plenty of times so far in this race, and it's that balance is so difficult.
More history to discuss as well. The last time BS Competition won in a BMW Sim event here at the Nürburgring, it came just a couple of weeks after the BS Competition team won your 2020 iRacing 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. Guess what BS Competition did just a couple of weeks ago under the Team BMW Bank banner? They won the 2022 iRacing 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. Now, it's going to take some effort. I'm not going to dispute that, but we'll see if that train rolls on. It's also been a great weekend for this M4 GT3. Of course, debuted on iRacing as a prototype, and then, you know, got updated through the homologation process to the version that we've got today. This weekend swept the podium at the Nürburgring Landstracken Series, also won in the Italian GT Championship where Timo Glock was one half of the winning pairing there. But they're joined by the newest member of the M4 racing family. Have you seen the new pictures? The BMW M4 GT4 car, Lewis?
No, I've not actually.
Looks really quite good if you ask me.
I did actually see one of these M4 GT3s in the flesh last weekend. I was at Alton Park, and Went to obviously saw a bit of British GT, and I saw one driving around. I thought, oh my goodness, I genuinely wasn't expecting to see one in British GT, and I was like, it's not as the grill is less dominating in real life, is what I'll say. Well, you don't really look at it too much. I got used to it now.
Sorry, got distracted there for a second. The grill looks better on the GT4. That's all I'm going to say.
Does it really? It didn't look good on the one that was parked behind me in the service station on the way back, where it was bright like Valentino Rossi yellow.
So you know
I was like, nope.
you know my biggest problem with the road going car is the fact that it often has a front, at least here in the US and California where I live, front number plate.
Yeah. Well, it has to over here, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's suboptimal. Ooh, that's deep into the corner from that 88 car. Not going to open the door for the 777 just yet. Still unable to break away is Chris Lullum with about 25 minutes complete of the race. Still in the tow is Andre Melchers, and that's important for the fuel saving. It's now an 8-car train at the front. Valtteri Alander, Thomas Tattler in the 707 Kova car runs in the 8th position, about 3.5 clear of the red line yellow and red line orange pairing that sit inside of your points paying positions. Crazy start. It's calmed down since then.
Calms down a lot. And what does that mean for the BMW SIM GT Cup? Always, Arjuna, it means that we're heading into chaos. We know we are. It's on its way. Always there is this calm, the eye of the storm, this calm middle ground bit, and then once we get into the end of it, it just turns into chaos, and it's kind of why we love it, to be honest. It probably is the most chaotic start that we've seen, though. I am a little bit more surprised that Lullum's not been able to pull away from the train behind, but he's still pulling out like about a 1/10 of a second on most laps, so he's building, but just very, very slowly.
Now, what has just happened to Luke McEwen? Because you see now he's not just behind Julian Kesselhut, he's quite considerably behind Julian Kesselhut. Now, let's grab a look at the replay here. So coming through that slower chicane, car does want to bounce a lot. Gets off a little bit wide. Now...
Low down, maybe?
I don't think so.
He was pretty early on the brakes there into the final. Yeah, I think it was a slow down.
There was the briefest of touches as well between the two of them. A little love tap. Let's jump on board quickly.
I think it takes too much of the second curb.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he knows. I think he knows instantly.
There you go.
Yeah, I think it's just a slow down.
That's why the onboard sometimes are such a good look. You see the gearing, you see the indication of the inputs as well. So Luke McEwen now 1.4 back from the final solitary point on the line today. And you mentioned it earlier, winning these races, it's such a tricky thing to do, but it's not a bad payday either. $1,200 to each of the winning drivers. We pay out $4,200 in total for each of these regular season BMW SIM GT Cup races. How do we get in on the fun? Clearly.
Yes, it's not too bad. It's certainly more than what we're getting paid. But the 600
we just need our custom M8s. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. I will settle with that. I'll allow them to pass if that is the case. I'll take an M8. Especially with the name on it as well. But no, obviously it's 600 as well for second, 300 for third, everything, mate. The thing is, though, is that to win in this, you basically have to have a perfect race, and that is not a joke. It has to be pretty much as near as makes a difference perfect from start to finish. And that is hard in 2 hours, especially when the level in sim racing we know is very, very high. And when I'm talking about perfect, I'm talking about you can just about get away with maybe missing 1 or 2 apexes over the race. And outside of that, no.
Well, and we talk about, missing 1 or 2 apexes. Look what's happened now. 1.3 almost is that gap between the top two. Now, draft is by about 1.1, you've lost the biggest part of the draft, but you've still got the last vestiges of it until maybe it's 1.5, 2 seconds adrift. So it's not far away. It is not far away that 72 car would have broken away at the front of the field. We'll also remind you, if you're watching on BMW eSports...
Covert.
Oh, that's a slowdown, surely.
Yeah, 100% slowdown for that.
And now where's he slotted in front of Phil Denez? We'll try to go around the outside. That's a brave move at the best of times, but holding on to 777. We'll grab a look at that in a few moments. But if you're watching on BMW eSports and you're not on iRacing, but you are on Assetto Corsa Competizione, remember that the BMW Sim Time Attack is available for you to qualify your way for BMW Sim Live. Now, very different sort of a car, but between the top two after round 1 of qualifying, it was half a tenth of a second per lap. You have to do, I think it's 10 laps in a row. Niels Naujoks, Arthur Camara, George Boothby, the top 3 when all things were said and done. The top 7 after 10 laps split by just 3 seconds, Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, especially with those top 3, we know how much like Niels Naujoks and Arthur Camara are well vested with racing over in that neck of the woods, and George Boothby, who typically races, he's a gas heat driver, races with Jaroslav Honzik and that lot a bit. I also once, the last time I interviewed George Boothby, I was like, what was it like racing with Jaroslav Honzik and having someone with such a large subscriber count? And then they were like, ha ha ha, he's got 300,000 subscribers. And I was like, cool. Brilliant. BS competition though, going for the move straight down the inside of Kova. Not able to get that one done on Matty Siepler. Got to go around the outside of the arena. That's not going to work, but you can kind of get the feeling that Phil Denez feels like he's losing time here.
Do you remember, you do have to pick your way forward. Oh, that's a bit of a block from Matty Siepler. Shuts the door very firmly on the American's chances to work his way through. But all's fair in love and war. They still have the draft of the car in front, so that's going to be the important thing. But you do have to work your way through. You can't be patient at this point of the race, Lewis. I mean, that's the reality. If you're not working your way into the top 4, top 4 at the minimum, that pit stop cycle often drops cars further and further back in the running order.
Yeah, you can't wait around now. Like, especially when we're coming into the final half hour of Phil Denez jumping into the car, because obviously, you know, halfway through the race we're expecting them to switch back over. They need to get on with it. They need to find the progress, make the most of their time in the car, and Phil Denez right now is feeling that kind of pressure, especially if we want to see history made today. The real issue from that group is the fact that if they are to take the victory, well, Chris Lulham's checking out here. And so not only would Phil Denez have to get to the front of the group, but also they would have to close what could potentially at this rate be close to a 2.5, 2.3, or 3 second gap by the end of the first stint.
I wonder, I can't remember off the top of my head who Lulham's teammate is. Maybe you can remind me here, but I think it might be Gianni Vecchio.
It is, I believe.
Which is the same pairing that won round 1.
Yes.
So if things hold, and I'm knocking on wood because I know you don't believe in the commentator's curse, but I definitely do. 4 races could have been won by just 2 different teams, 4 different drivers. What a remarkable story that would have been when we talk about how competitive this series really is. So now 1.3 away across the line is Lulham from the chasing pack. He is almost. He is inches away from breaking out of the draft, and I think from there he won't look back, and maybe is not holding back when it comes to the pace either. He is very much foot to the floor, and I think pushing to really grab what he can at this point of the race to give Vecchio the best possible run in the second half of the race. You see fastest lap goes to Julian Kessel in the BS competition 96. That's a 1:54.272 if you're wondering what the lap times are like here today. Thies Simon gets past Max Humbert in the NSH Racing team. Settled down, but there's still plenty of fighting further back in the pack.
Yeah, it's still plenty drama filled. You know, we've still got plenty to talk about over this. That NSH racing car, after being sent off down at T6, you can see there's quite a lot of damage on the rear end of that car. Makes sense. They don't really have the pace. As much as it qualified in 27th and is now running in 30th, which actually doesn't seem like it's that bad. That car had risen up the order. I'm pretty sure it was on the cusp of the top 20 by the time it was gloriously departed down at this part of the
Not as gloriously as
circuit.
Dylan Burse.
No, that was pretty special. You got to be sent off pretty hard to flip the car. So
it's funny you mentioned that. I think that might have just got featured on BMW social media. Reminder as well, if you want to get involved with us, use the hashtag BMW Sim. You don't see the media that was attached to this tweet, but apparently it was a perfect rollover. Yeah, no, we can take a guess. I didn't really see that they landed perfectly on all 4 wheels, but if they did, that is a nice 10 out of 10 across the line. 1.7 seconds. Say goodbye to Team Redline Blue.
I'm pretty sure it was just onto the roof, so I'm actually gonna rescind BMW's perfect rollover there and actually say it's more of like a 4 out of 10. Like it's decent. It's
wow.
See me after the show. Good set. You know, that kind of level of, you know. Bring your homework to me.
Someone's not being invited back when we go back to Watkins Glen.
No. Yeah, that's it. This is it. I'm sorry. It was nice. It was nice commentating.
It was nice.
I'll see you in a bit.
Yep. No. Next time, Simi Award winner, real world commentator. You've got better things to do, apparently.
I wouldn't go with that.
No, you would.
There's nothing I'd rather do than spend time with you on a Sunday afternoon, Argina.
I'm glad to hear you say that. The reason I kind of mentioned your real world stuff, though, of course, you're commentating on GB3, GB4, Formula, open wheel stuff in the UK. But there's one driver in particular who I'm always curious to see how he does in the real world. That's a certain Max Esterson, who's not just, I think, very much propelled himself into real racing through sim racing, starting at a young age, getting the backing of those around him to go and push into the real world. He's got iRacing on the side of his car as well.
Yeah, iRacing sponsored driver. Obviously, the American, was it massive? Sorry, it was New York, wasn't it? He's from.
Yes.
And I think he had a top 10 in the third race. Struggled a little bit in the first couple, but obviously it's not his debut in real world racing. It is him sort of really starting to make of things and running very, very strong. His parents were also stood by and watching. It was really nice, actually. Obviously a nice group of guys, but it's just like, I know that guy. I know who he is. I've commentated on him before. Good memories. But either way,
from what you told me as well, parents sounded delightful. Always good to have a chat with the family.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't know about you, Argina, but my family really couldn't give a damn about my sim racing exploits or motorsport. I don't race motorsport, but they're both Robin and Pan. They're both very supportive of everything like sim racing and motorsport, and of course his brothers as well that are both quite quick. His younger brothers doing karting and such. I'm sure we'll see him in iRacing. Might have a Team Esterson car. That'd be right.
I like the sound of that. As Julian Castlehut, another fastest lap for the BS competition, number 1996. I think that's the way we're going to refer to it as we jump on board with Alejandro Sanchez, who's been going through a bit of a tough time recently. Kane Halliburton steals that fastest lap with a 54.193, so pace ratcheting up from that RAG car that struggled with some issues in the early stages. Difficult couple of, another fastest lap, this time Daniel Pastor. Difficult time for Alejandro Sanchez. Maybe this time I can finally get the story out. 2 World Championship races, 2 hardware failures. We always talk about how in sim racing you're not going to have an engine blow up necessarily, you're not going to have your gearbox fail on you, but the controls have... that was close with car in front, Ricardo Rico in the 100, but you can always have other things fail. Most memorably, of course, was Max Verstappen's brake pedal at the 24 Hours of Spa a couple of years ago, where leading the race in the final hour, the brake decided no more, and literally collapsed on itself, and they had to slow the car by using the barriers to get a new driver in. When you're competing at a world championship level, though, Lewis, you want your hardware to just be consistent, to just be reliable.
I mean, it's kind of one of those things. It's part of like the driver's maintenance, right? And this is that, and obviously there are some things that are out of your control, but it's making sure that your hardware is good to go, and that's on everything. That's the wheel. That's making sure that the computer's actually working correctly. Which, I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all jumped into a race and gone, oh no, I've left Facebook open or something in the background, and then suddenly you're getting like pinged left, right, and centre. It's obviously your responsibility to make sure that you're ready to go racing. Again, at the wheels correctly plugged in, and that there isn't a cable that if you go over a bump isn't going to get pulled out, which I have seen more than one occasion. It's all those kind of things. It's very interesting, but I mean, here's me just literally slapping a wheel onto a desk and hoping for the best, so I can't really judge on that side.
Sorry, Lewis. Getting word from Race Control. Now I have to decipher all of the things that have just been said. Yes, no, you've seen it as well. I do believe Team Redline Blue has got a 5-second penalty for the thing that we saw on the start. Now, I'll keep going. Team Redline Orange, I believe, has a 5-second penalty for contact with the Apex Racing team. Bombay Spice Competition got involved with the Apex Racing Academy 198. The 198 has got a 10-second penalty. 10-second penalty for the Apex Racing team number 99 car. 20-second penalty for... Who is that for?
Is that Vendaval?
It's either no, I think it's the Mechanic Racing Green car that turned Dylan Burst up onto his roof.
We'll just say, as much as I'm pretty sure that the race control is trying to fix this, but we have just been sent a massive block of text.
Yes.
It's quite difficult to translate.
It is just
live.
a block
You've done a
of
good
text.
job. You did a good job there, mate. Though. But no, 5 seconds penalty though. Definitely the one to really focus on there is 5 second time penalty for the 72, which, if I'm honest, I agree with. They're going to be like, that's very harsh and all that kind of stuff. There was no real contact, but it's if it's for that thing on the start-finish straight.
The start of the race as well. Like,
yeah, it was ultra aggressive on the defence, and most importantly, it was reactionary.
yes.
And so it's kind of like, if you're going to do that, you know what's going to happen.
You're either in the wall or you get a penalty. I guess that's what.
Yeah.
You're definitely getting summoned to the steward's office if you do that in the real world. It did remind me of Schumacher and Barrichello. What was it, Hungary?
Yeah, 2010, yeah.
Yeah. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, Rubens was not happy.
No, he was not amused. I think he would say that it was suboptimal, but you know, it wasn't great, shall we say? Like I say, that one for me, I know that there are some people that will be like, you can only really get a penalty if there's been contact. I'm like, well, yes, but there wasn't contact, and it still deserved a penalty. So regardless,
You penalise the action, you don't penalise the consequence.
The result, exactly.
Yes, that is how I've always looked at it. And it's a tough balance, right, for race control, because if, for example, it's a minor incident, but someone then ends up out of the race because of a consequence of a minor incident, do you penalise the other team with that result in mind, or do you penalise the action? It's always a tricky slope to walk on, and another reason why I'm always glad that I'm not in race control.
Yeah, they do. It's a thankless task, is race control. That is the most important thing, and it always has been. Sim racing, motorsport, all of it. It's always pretty thankless. No one's ever going to go up to you and be like, "Oh, thanks for giving me that penalty." Yeah, of course not. But it's a task where you do receive a lot of flack and a lot of criticism, and it is not an easy task, and it is why we would rather talk about it rather than actually do the race control stuff, because it is really tricky. But it's a necessity to go racing at this level of competition. We need race control, and I think whether you can kind of say that the decision is right or wrong, you must respect the decision.
Sorry, I just want to say, one of the notes on the race control sheet that we've just been passed on to, which you can visit by the RaceSpot.tv /BMW 2022 Sim GT. We'll get the link in the chats for you. All drivers, lap 1, turns 2 and 3 were investigated.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, there was a lot going on there, so I think that's a fair cop.
So
to be fair, though, it's kind of one of those ones where you look at it a race control and be like, oh, please don't. I don't want to go through all that.
Oh, I can tell you more about. Yeah, let's not get into that. If Dirk Federman is listening, you know what I'm referring to here. So to confirm, 5 second penalty for Team Redline Blue, 5 second penalty for Team Redline Orange, 10 second penalty for the Apex Academy 198 car, and a 10 second penalty for the Apex Racing 99 machine, and the Mechanic Racing car. That 20 second penalty not going to be a major factor, because I do believe Claudio Mack is running dead last of those out there on track. So at this point, I think that's somewhat academic. Not academic is the gap at the front, though. It's almost 2.5 seconds. If Vecchio can build another 2 and a bit seconds up, Redline, very similar to what we saw in, what was it, the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta race, would win on track, and once the stewards' decisions have been factored in.
Yeah, I just double check. I think pretty sure that penalties, regardless, they're applied post-race. So the 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever we're talking about here, they're not going to be applied on the pit stop, which is why it's kind of even more critical that that Lulham take off to allow Vecchio to take off as well, and try and build a 5 second gap in the next 1 hour and 20 minutes, which it would not be the first time this season that we've seen someone win with a 5 second time penalty. Of course, BS Competition did do that back in Road Atlanta. I think they had a 5 second time penalty, but they won by 10 seconds, so kind of pretty confident. That's what they're trying to do, but at the moment the gap is not being built at a good enough speed for that to actually happen. It would end, if things go at this rate, and the train behind is a battle, which, let's be honest, they are going to, and then tyre strategies and whatnot before we even got to the pit stops. At the moment, we're looking towards that gap being maybe close to around about 4 seconds at the gap, the speed that Lulham's pulling away, so who knows.
On board with Phil Denez in that 89. Now, only about 17 minutes away from the pit stop cycle, so this is where you figure out what fuel saving you've done, what you want to do in the final quarter of the stint, and and how you want to hand over to your teammate, when you want to come down, are you going to react to those in front of you? Quick look at the weather conditions again as Daniel Pastor almost breaks into the 153s. Still very, very cool. I think we're not going to be shocked when teams take no tires. We might see a couple of teams take 2 tires, although I'd really, really be shocked at that. Question will be, which strategy is faster? I've got to gamble. I think you've got to gamble and go no tires, given what we saw at Sebring when it was much, much warmer.
I agree. I'd be more over the no tyres aspect here. 22 degrees track temperature, much, much cooler than it was, obviously, back in Sebring, where we had that sort of middle ground. It kind of, even then, it wasn't really a clear-cut thing of, yes, of course, the one with being BS competition was 2 tyres, if I remember correctly, and
yes,
it was no tyres on the BMW team, well, the red line red car. The thing is, with that and them being quite close towards the end, it was only the final lap when we saw the change. So I'd say around here in cooler conditions, surely that gap would be much, much larger, and so it surely has to be no tyres. It's got to be no tyres. I wouldn't want to take tyres right now. Depends what they've done, though. That depends. The eyes go through a different life. You know, depends on who's driving. So, you know, who knows?
Who knows, indeed. Down into turn 1 again, they plunge. 2.4, the gap this time between first and second. And if you're the 88 car, I wonder if you're Valentin Mandanok, do you start getting on the radio to the team manager and saying, hey guys, I think I've got a bit more pace. Why don't you let me try and have a, give me a crack at chasing down the 72 car? Because as it stands right now, all that's happening is lap by lap, 10th by 10th. They're falling backwards.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we're seeing, interestingly, different teams like setting the fast lap, for example. We're seeing lots of different teams setting the fastest laps right now. And this is kind of actually a little bit more interesting than you'd think, in a sense of teams are going faster at different points of the race, right? We had.
Sorry. I think all the cars that are doing fastest laps now, Lewis, have had to come down to get some repairs or something.
All right, well, I'll roll back my point then, shall I? I'll back. I don't know if there's a reverse siren that I can sound to back out of this point.
It's the Uno Reverso car. Just pull it out.
Yeah, no, I'm picking up what you're putting down, mate, and I am not liking it at all. I thought it was going to be a really good point then, but no.
No, right. Who is it? Daniel Pastor's been one of those cars. The 150 definitely had to pit, and I think did take his fast repair as well. Kane Halliburton would be the other one, right? No, he's not pitted. He's down in 25th, although he has been involved in many, many incidents. So I say many. Being involved in one incident at the start of this race is just one of many.
There's been a few, yeah. Either way,
you got what I meant.
Yeah, no, I again, you know, I'm picking it up. But after 45 minutes of this race, it is a 2.5 second lead. So that's half the lead that they need, but obviously it's going up quite slowly with Lullen. I wonder if Melchers might be saving tyres for the second half of this stint, or maybe even for the second half of this race, because that's the thing, is that we don't really know. I would have assumed there might have been a bit of panic stations when Lullen was taken away from the front of the field from other contenders in this train. There might have been a bit more of like dives, but everyone's kind of let that Team Red Line Blue car go.
Yeah, no, they really did. Once the pass got made, it's just increased since then. 13 minutes to go. Looking at the gaps right now, I'm just trying to see where Team Redline Orange is actually outside of the top 10. So Luke McEwen, again, one of those cars that would have a 5-second penalty, not in the points considerations, at least for now. Maybe the only thing that we haven't heard about, by the way, is that BS Competition 89 car, Lewis, which, of course, did have that moment with Team Redline Red.
Yeah, see, this is the thing, is that now that I'm remembering back to all of this stuff from earlier on in the race, we got asked, like, is there anything else that happened in this race? I'm like, honestly, mate, my brain is mashed potato with some of the stuff that we had right at the start of this race. It was absolutely chaotic. But yes, going down sort of into the first couple of corners, a little bit tight between them. Don't actually fully remember what happened, if I'm honest. I just know there was contact.
You did say there was a healthy dose of air.
There was a healthy dose of air. Yeah, absolutely right. Yes, it was that one. Yeah, outside of turn 1 and going around the outside of turn 2. Yeah, no, I'm remembering to some degree.
You're picking up what they put down.
Yeah, well, I mean, apparently so. I don't think there's anything to read into that incident. I know it's a little bit tough, but considering everything that happened, I actually am not sure anyone's really at fault.
Yeah, no, I think I tend to agree with you as well, and I do wonder if I saw the comment from Antiohola, maybe fishing for some free positions there and less pressure. I think that's one way of looking at it. Anti, you know, I'm just joking, but I got to make sure I don't get in trouble. I can't.
Start irritating teams, mate.
Yeah, I know. Then what am I going to do? Oh, I'm in trouble. If you're enjoying the waffling, by the way, because there's been a healthy dose of that over the last half an hour. We should mention there's something new coming to the world of esports racing, and that's VCO Send It, a print magazine for a digital motorsport. And, well, you get to hear me and Lewis argue about who is the biggest team in all of sim racing.
Yeah, and the one that you went for isn't on this grid. The one that I went for is leading right now, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself, mate. I'm
Clearly.
It's sorry. Once we get to tracks, mate, again, this is the 4th best layout of the 2nd best circuit.
You're driving me up the wall right now.
Yeah, I know. You're trying to irritate the teams, I'm trying to irritate you. Thus, I'm then making the teams like me, so it works. You know?
So how many different layouts include the Nordschleife? Is it 3?
The other 3.
Because you've got the VLN layout, you've got the 24-hour layout. What other? Then you've got the combination, which skips the arena but takes the sprint Strecker shortcut. Then you've got just the Nordschleife itself, the Touristfahrer, and the.
Okay, right. It might be worse than the 4th best layout.
It's the 6th, I think, if you ask me. 6th best layout of the best track in the world.
All right.
Although, having said
that is convincing.
When you remove the Nordschleife, it does take a pretty steep step down, if you ask me.
Yeah, it is a pretty large jump. Although I will say any of the layouts where they do skip that arena section is almost unforgivable. Not for the fact of the arena section is very good, because it's not.
It's awful.
But mostly for the fact of that chicane that gets put in turn 2.
Oh, that is also awful.
Is one of the worst corners that I have ever driven in anything in sim racing. I think it is awful, beyond awful. I get why it's there. And I get why we don't have to run. Well, we can't run through the arena because it's the support paddock typically and such. And obviously,
yes.
You know, for the Nürburgring, there's so many cars anyway, so you need to spread out a lot. When I was here in 2018, it was the classic paddock was on the arena.
Oh, you've actually been here.
Yeah, I have, mate.
Nice.
I've been to the Nürburgring twice, mate.
You haven't been to your favourite track though, so clearly this is your favourite track.
Nope, because my favourite track's a little bit further away, mate.
Excuses.
I don't really. Also, the spiders down under, and I'm not about that.
There's a lot more than spiders to be scared of.
Yeah, and I'm not about any of that. So I'll head down to Bathurst at one point, but for now, I'm pretty happy visiting. You know, the Nordschleife every now and then. I've actually been there though, so you know. I've got a real judge.
You do have that. I will say, I've got a friend of mine who is planning a trip later this year where he's going to first go and watch, I think it's the Bathurst 1000, and then the following week drive over to Phillip Island and, you know, do some fun stuff along the way as well and watch MotoGP. That sounds like a motorsports dream holiday,
pretty good.
Doesn't it?
Have you seen MotoGP ever, by the way?
Not live, on TV, yes.
Yeah, I've been twice, mate.
Have you ever seen Mika Häkkinen in person?
No.
Yeah, there you go. I got one on you.
Yeah, fair enough. I did have a chat though with Juan Pablo Montoya, so you know I've got that.
Yeah.
This is literally the last 10 minutes has just been us just
trying to one up each other.
Yeah.
You've never interviewed Max Verstappen though, and neither have I, to be honest. Oh, Team Red Line Blue, fastest lap of the race, and that's crucial at this juncture. 53.903. Yeah, almost 3 seconds, and I think they got word about that penalty, and they realized that they've just got to get their pedal down.
I kind of wondered if they knew about the penalty, and that's where some of this gap. But this is the section of the race where we do typically see it head into Crazy Town, just as everyone starts firing on all cylinders. They start thinking, oh, let's get this track position before we roll into the pit lane. Especially if some teams are going to take fresh tyres on the stop, because there's no point in having a tyre that's a great set. By the time you've pulled it up in the pit stop, you want to burn them out. Also, as much as you're typing it in chat, I'm going to say it. Will Vincent says there's a certain track in France which is pretty great. I think it is straights and chicanes with one good bit of racetrack. So, you know, each their own.
That countryside jaunt in northern France. Will Vincent does also say that Indianapolis is the best place motorsports venue in the world. I
think it's got the best race on the planet.
Yeah, because I love I think it's one of my favorite ovals because people think that it's just
my favorite oval.
They think it's 4 identical turns. It is not, trust me, especially when you get the wind there. They're all very, very different. But the road course is kind of tragic.
The road course is awful. But the Indianapolis 500 is
the best race in the world.
Is the #1 race for me. It is the one.
Hey, we
I
agree
need
on
to go and
something.
see. We do actually agree on something. I know. Yeah, because you didn't say it was the Nürburgring 24-hour, which is
no. I don't. Well, here's my.
It's good.
The Nürburgring 24 is better in real life than it is on the sim. By the way, a bit of separation forming between Danny Elgabe and the 2 RAG cars. Mandenach really haranguing the rear end of Melchers. I think really because that gap's now 3.5 seconds. He knows. Let's go, swap us around, and if it doesn't work, you can have the position back. It should be as simple as that. But I've, grown up more with special events on iRacing. That's where I've always loved motorsports, but I've really gotten uber passionate about them because of sim racing. The iRacing 24 Hours of the Nürburgring is just a little bit sad when you only have 55 cars around this historic venue, which is, 25 kilometers? You need 200 cars here.
Yeah, you need like a bare minimum of 152. I understand. I think we can all sit here and we can all understand why it's not the case. And it's not like a dig at anything and saying that one platform does it better because they can, no one can realistically put, at this point, at this day and age, we can't realistically put 200 cars on a track and have it be stable. That's the critical thing. But one day, hopefully, we'll be able to get that in sim racing. And if not, we'll have to just live with the real thing. Oh, what a terrible shame.
What a terrible shame. Yeah.
So, yeah, one day, we'll keep our fingers crossed. I do want to take part in a proper virtual 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, with lots of cars.
Let's go, pony up some money, see if we can...
We'll just do it in real life?
Yeah, let's convince BMW to put us in, the M235i Cup class or whatever it's called. I forget off the top of my head.
How many corners do you think we'd do before we crashed?
Me, at least 170. I'd survive one lap at not 100% speed, and the second I try and ratchet it up, things go bad.
How many corners are there on the Nordschleife?
I think once you include the 24-hour layout, so the terrible chicane and then the rest of the GP section, I think it's 170.
Yeah, but this is the whole thing. Is that honestly, go and find an official number. There isn't one. Like no one's actually counted.
Yeah, this
it's
goes
just sort of like there's somewhere. Joking aside, there is somewhere between 90 and 200, and no one really knows what it is.
Well,
it's just somewhere in there.
This goes back to you and the discussion that you and I always have about corner numbers and how they're terribly done at all tracks. Have you ever seen a track map for Sonoma?
Yes.
It is awful. It hurts.
Yes.
It hurts. My soul.
This is why you need to name corners or sections or whatever, so you don't have to count. Like no one knows how many corner numbers there are around the Nordschleife, but that's why it's all got names. Because if someone says turn 146, you're like, I don't know where that is. But if someone says that's Brunchen, you're like, that's YouTube corner. I'm with you.
Yeah, or if someone says that it was at kilometer 24, okay, that helps me a lot.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Cheers, thanks, bye. By the way, that gap now closing in on 4 seconds. So clearly, all of the red line cars have found a bit more gusto right now.
Because red line orange
car, closing in back on this battle for the top 10. Does this battle go all the way back? No, there's a bit too much of a gap between Kova and BS.
It's Kova and red line yellow, by the way. It's
Kova and red line yellow. You're absolutely right.
It's about 2 seconds, but it's on the verge. I think if that 12 and Christopher Dembies can find a 10th more by the time we get to the pit stop cycle, they may just be into the chance of closing in. Now, again, remember, if you're in this long train, 2nd through 8th, when do you come down to pit road? Because this is a narrow pit entry. There's a hairpin before, and then you get back on the throttle before you get back on the anchors. It's not an easy one. I think that's something that will weigh in the minds of these teams and drivers.
I mean, there's probably quite a lot that's going through their mind. Now, for the ones that's probably not got too much going through their mind is actually that red line blue car that's pretty confident and comfortable right now. The thing that they will be worried about, and the thing that they really should be worried about, is complacency.
Yes.
Which it's kind of that thing of right now, the only team that can beat Team Red Line Blue Team Red Line Blue is Ben Q drops back. The Williams Esports Ben Q car drops back. Is that Sam Coiter coming back up the field?
There was a bit of contact as well with Alejandro Sanchez in the Apex Academy car for Josh Ladd, who former Yassit driver. Not sure if he's made the full-time switch to Williams or if this is a one-off appearance, but good to see another driver repping the Williams Esports brand. I think Coitet has found a little bit of pace, you know, but here comes the Spaniard Sanchez just sending it down the inside, lick the stamp and send it. Daniel Ricciardo would be proud of that one. Around the outside of the arena section, not always the easiest, but you roll the momentum into turn 3 just a little bit better, but Coitet's got the inside line, hugs the inside, which will sweep his momentum. Back down on the run into turn 5, Sanchez through. Here comes Josh Ladd.
Yeah, that was a nice little move there from Sanchez. He's obviously a bit frustrated after not only qualifying not very well, but dropping down the order after skipping the Schumacher S on the first lap of the race and getting a pretty hefty slowdown from doing so. Heads down to the front of the field. Still a long way up to the back end of the points, about 6-7 seconds before those points there. But with penalties, with drama, with late race stuff, they're putting themselves in their best position to potentially steal a few points here this afternoon. But realistically now, they've got to gap this group because they're going to come under fire almost straight away, down into turn 1, down into chicane. You've got to go.
We talked about complacency, by the way, potentially for Chris Lullum. I think he's probably quite relaxed right now. I wonder what music they are jamming to in the Redline voice chat, at least for the time being, as we close in on the end of hour 1 and into the pit stop cycle. Magic number is... Well, we say magic number. The reality is, however long you can go is ideal in these races, because if you're not taking tires, you're ultimately just limited by the amount of fuel you're putting in the car.
You can see in the background as well, our Nage competition, Rico was looking down the inside briefly there on the PGZ Bombay Spice car down into chicane. Didn't actually make anything stick, but did drag that car off of the rear end of the train as we're once again focused on the second position. That little weave there, that is the PGZ Bombay Spice car. I think it was weaving. There it is. Again, another little weave. More so to say, would you kindly mind not doing any of that? That'd be sick.
But Ricardo Rica says no, and it's pulling them off the back bit by bit. They went motor racing. That's what's happening right now.
They are, and they are motor racing. They are just... It's the thing is I'm assuming Ricardo Rico's thinking, look, you're not as fast as I am, and you're losing this train, and the PGZ Bombay Spice car is sat there thinking, yeah, we're losing the train because you keep attacking me, sir. But like I say, it's a race. They're going to fight. It's again playing the long game. I know there's an hour left to go in this race, but right now they're essentially playing the long game so that their teammates don't have to. You know, their teammates in the next portion of the race, they can go on the attack. The more fuel you save now, as you're saying, the later you can go in the race, the better, because it means that when your teammate jumps in, they don't have to worry about the fuel. They can just push, or to whatever the limitation of the tyre is, depending on what strategy you've gone on.
And if you're wondering why it's the PGZ and Bombay Spice car, BS. That's all I'm going to say. You should be able to figure it out from there. The hour is ticked on over, though. Here is your race leader. Chris Lullum has almost made amends for the 5-second penalty. 4.2 clear. And as Lewis mentioned before, it's not going to be served in the cycle of pit stops. It will be added as a post-race time penalty. And the pit stop window is upon us. Here comes your leader down onto pit road. Now, does anyone else follow him in?
Yeah, wow. Valentin Madden. Quite a lot staying out.
Which is what you'd expect. Well, Andre Melcher, sorry, is the one that's come on down. You got me confused there for a long old second. So Mandanark, El Gabay, Bennett, Cipolla, Denez, Kesselhut, those are the top 6 currently staying out right now. You can see it's a busy time on pit lane. But not entirely shocked by that. And I think if you're Mandanark, this is that opportunity. You've got some clean air. Try and get the overcut working nicely.
And yeah, for the others, they'll probably be sat there in the line, maybe. Thing is, once someone from the head of the group thinks, right, I'm going to start burning some fuel and start trying to clear off into the distance, everyone in the train goes, right, okay, I'll just try and use that to pull me along a little bit and still try and save some fuel. I think for Phil Denez might be quite good. Look at how busy pit lane is. I'm glad there's no contact in the pit lane. You can see the RHG Junior in the first spot.
Don't say that, because you can
make contact in the fast lane, yes.
Now, I think you see there's at least one car that is way out of the box. Up on the jacks, that's what we were wondering for. Redline Orange is gambling with no tires. Josh Thompson on debut will roll off ahead of the rest of the field.
A lot of tires being taken.
Yeah, that's a bold set of calls. Urano goes a bit early. They'll be in front of the 707. Bombay Spice and the PGZ car rolls off. Redline Blue, I think, might be in trouble now.
Well, look at us. We were sat here being like, no, this is
No
100%
tyres, yeah.
no tyres, 100% no tyres, 100% no tyres. And the rest of the field has gone, you are crazy. So Josh Thompson that would be pretty good, though, for Thompson to lead potentially in his first few laps of being a Team Redline driver, albeit on strategy. But still, that'd be especially if they can win. As that comes into the pit lane, but still the MSI esports cars and that they'll all stay out.
Only Elgabe
for one more. It is only Elgabe. I thought with BS competition, surely they were going to stay out.
Yeah, I was picking up what you were putting down. I was on the same page as you. Yeah. So we'll get a look at the pit stop times once the cycle is done. We won't fixate on that just yet, but plenty of driver changes. Johnny Vecchio is about 12 seconds, I think, behind the Team Redline Orange car. Trying to do some quick mental math, always a dangerous proposition, but in that ballpark, about 13, maybe 15 seconds at most, is Johnny Vecchio back. It's a difficult place to pass, but I wonder if the tyre delta is going to be significant enough.
It's not even that's really the problem, the space between them. It's the cars between them. You've got Kova in there, you've got Urano Esports HKM in there, and you've got the PGZ Bombay Spice. And that's before we've even accounted for anyone who's potentially going to depart the pit lane now. Yeah, I mean, there's an hour to go. We know how fast Johnny Vecchio is.
There goes BS. So that BS have swapped it around from what they did last time around. No tyres. And I'll talk very quickly about how the state of the tyres look for Team Redline Orange, because they have been very, very kind to send me some tyre data. 2 tyres, I think, a lot better situated this time than it was last time. But again, we knew that the track temperature is so much cooler today.
Yeah, and so right now then, obviously making a bit of progress. I know Josh Thompson's not going to lead any laps, so that's fine. BS competition will take over the head. They are desperate to make history right now, aren't they? They're really going for it. And with the next 2 cars that will stop, they'll come out very close to the MSI Esports red car, but realistically the 89, depending on where the MSI Esports red car comes out, whether they take tyres or not, but it could be the lead for Raider Talvar as they head for that history. 3 consecutive race wins, which we've never seen before in any of the BMW Sim competition here on iRacing.
As Danny Elgabe comes onto pit lane, he should be handing over to Christian Lamella. The question I have is, what was the tyre strategy? And again, this was before the big update and the revamp of the GT3 aero and tyre configurations, but what was the strategy play that got BS competition into the lead at the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta? Because I think it was somewhat similar to what we've got today.
I honestly can't remember. It was a long time ago. Obviously, all these rounds are separated.
Ago.
These rounds, it was like 2 rounds ago, but also it was 2 months ago. So we commentate on a fair few races, Argina, and so it is typically in through one ear and out of the other. But I'm pretty sure they were 2 tyres. No, there were 2 tyres that day.
Was it 2 tyres? Okay, I thought it was no tyres.
Yeah, because Zenith and that lot had the no tyres, and they jumped right up the order, didn't they? And I'm pretty sure everyone else was like, nope, don't want to do any of that. So they were like the only ones to do it. So I'm pretty sure everyone else was 2s.
To correct myself, by the way, it's not going to be Christian Lamella. It will be Gabby Montoro in the MSI number 3, but they're still on pit lane. Looks like they're doing at least 2 tyres, if not 4. It's down the hill. It's a PS competition. 1-2. Redline Orange in 3rd, but again, remember, they've got a 5-second time penalty to be added at the end of this race, as they're only about 4.8 in front of Kova, who did take 2 tyres. And now that the cycle is somewhat complete, we are still waiting for Daniel Pastor in the Williams Esports car to make a second dive down onto pit lane after having to come in for some repairs in the early stages of the race. Let's show you the last pit stop time. Left side of your screen, you'll be able to see that. So anywhere lower than 42 seconds, you're looking at no tyres, fuel only. 50 seconds, 55 seconds, that's 2 tyres. 70 seconds, that is 4 tyres. You can see the delta and the split in how many different cars have gone for the different strategies.
That is some big splits. Yes, like that. It's typically we see it, more so between no tyres and 2, or 2 tyres and 4. We don't typically see the full house up inside that top grouping where we're seeing both no tyres, 2 tyres, and 4. We don't typically see all 3 of those strategies playing out between a lot of our heavy hitters at the front. So this is genuinely going to be very interesting. Very, very interesting. Kova obviously taking the 2s. The red line blue car, that's the one we're really kind of focused on just ahead here of the R8G Esports, the ones that's taken 4 tyres. I don't know. They clearly made short work of the PGZ Bombay Spice car, so fair enough.
Yeah, no, that they did. They're well and truly through and clear there. So gap between the first car that took 4 tyres and the leader is 23 seconds. And it is Gianni Vecchio. But again, remember, he's got a 5-second penalty. In reality, it's a 25-second gap that he's got to close on.
So I remember when we were trying to predict this from like 40 minutes out back in Sebring, and it was looking like it was pretty tight. Impossible. It's way too hard, because the thing is if you look at the numbers right now, you'd probably look at it and say that Reina Talvar's doing enough to hang on. But the thing is those tyres are going to drop off more and more as the race goes on. Meanwhile, the red line blue car can push 110%.
There was a check up there. Monturo gets past the PGZ Bombay Spice car. Red line purple side by side with Vlad Kimichev as Diogo Pinto, leader in your World Championship for 2022, around the outside through the arena section. Give it to that number 69 car.
Yeah, nice, like I say, little exchange there, just on the cusp of the top 10 there. On the level of fighting, though, for that final point, of course, anyone who watched last year, you'll know it was basically each race was its own little thing. We were focusing on who was going to win and who was in the top 5, and that was kind of it. Whereas now we're fighting for the championship. That final point could be very, very important, and Team Redline Purple absolutely going for it, straight down the inside. Nice little move.
Wisbicki, not much he can do with that worn rubber. He's going to lose not 1 but 2. Vlad Kimichev around the outside of the Schumacher S's, and Kimichev has to get on the anchors to just allow the white and gold to hold on for now, and really allows that 69 car to stretch its legs. Already about 6 car lengths clear on the run down into the first of the 90-degree corners that will build you up onto that back straightaway. Down the hill, cambered in corner. Going to be important for Kimichev to get on the power nicely, use the toe to launch an attack to the very hard braking zone. That is the penultimate corner on the track. To the inside he'll look, not going to be fought too hard, I would think, and yep, there we go. R8G, whoa, bit of a hesitation in the turn in there from the 9, but the number 8 up into 11th.
But 11th doesn't pay anything out, Arjuna, so it's not good enough. Hoping for a few more cars up ahead. Going to be struggling with those tyres later on. The Urano car might be one of those who's running side by side down into the first corner. Was not fought really at all. Was Gianni Vecchio, who's got up now into 6th position. So the work already being done for the Team Redline Blue car. A little easy move there on the Urano Esports HKM, which I'm pretty sure also hasn't taken tyres. So that one, I'm going to say right now, they're going to struggle to score points in that Urano car.
Yes, agreed. Ollie Steinbraten is only about 3.5 clear of Vlad Kimichev, maybe 4 clear of Vlad Kimichev. So I agree. I think they're in for a tough old look at the next portion, of the race. But have to wait and see how the tyres hold on, how the lap times shake up as well. 156.155 for your leader last time by. The first car on 2 tyres, 155.3, so almost 0.8 a lap quicker. And then hard to judge with red line blue because they just made a pass, I think. But a 55.0, only 0.3 quicker than those that took 2 tyres.
But this is at the moment. This is right now. This is the kind of thing where these gaps, these time difference between 2 and 4 tyres will change exponentially towards the end of the race. It might even go the opposite way of where you think, where like those on 4 tyres are firing up to the back of those on no tyres, and then suddenly late in the race it plateaus a little bit and they don't really have that pace as the tyre wear starts to add in the thermodynamics, as you put it so eloquently earlier, come into effect. Here. Well, you've been using a few big words here today, so I thought I'd get eloquent into the broadcast.
I'm breaking out my thesaurus today.
Yeah, right.
We're focusing on the 777, who's only 10 back from your leader. And again, it was another... this time, it's just 0.4 of a second. That's still a healthy chunk for Valtteri Alander to reel on in. Remember, he's net 3rd once you add the penalty for Team Redline Orange. don't count out Kova here. I tell you, I think that 777 is actually in a pretty good spot. So with, what, 47 minutes to go, we're probably looking at 20-something laps, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, because we got
a little more.
Yeah, I think I don't think you can count them out by any stretch of the imagination. Here comes the move as R8G finally gets past Urano, but now already 2.2 back from Redline Blue.
Yeah, I think we're going like 24 laps from this point, maybe 25 laps from this point. So there's still plenty of time. Of course, that lead being 3 seconds for BS competition over BS competition, so that's not too bad. The times they're running, though, at the moment, Reina Talvar did a 55.8. The Kova car that you're speaking of that was going full guns did a 55.4. So closing in 0.4, roughly close to half a second. Over that time, that gap's going to come down. If it continues coming down the way that it is, it'll be on the final lap. That means that the Kova car has to clear the Team Redline Orange and the BS competition and keep this pace going. And that doesn't also account for the Team Redline Blue car, which is running closer to 0.8 to a second faster with 18.5 seconds.
But
that means that that's coming down again, fairly substantially.
Add 5 seconds to the 72 car, right? So maybe the move is, if Kova gets caught by the 72, try and tow up towards the leaders using them. Remember what happened at Sebring as well. The first car, somewhat easy to get past for Phil Dinez and the 89. The second car, a little bit harder. And it was that third car, the leader, that proved to be the most challenging. It's all going to be about saving those tires for 1, 2, and 3 right now, as to how easy it will be for those behind to get on past. Here comes Gabby Montoro looking down low on Ollie Steinbraten, and Diogo Pinto has a look to the inside too.
That was a pretty bold one there from Pinto to at least give it a cheeky look. Of course, Pinto, that car has been, as there is the dive, so it's sorted now. Diego Pinto did find his way past. But when they were racing in the Team Redline green car, when he was partnered up with Luke Bennett, as he is now, obviously it's Team Redline purple for them, they finished second twice in the opening round of the second round of this season. So they have good pace, they have good form. Obviously, Diogo Pinto was the championship leader heading into round 3, if memory serves. They are a team to really focus on this championship. Not really going too well today, but still, clearly Pinto and Bennett are feeling pretty confident in this M4.
So let's go back to what I was saying earlier with the tires, right? So we're looking at Team Redline Orange. We're looking at Bosch Thompson on debut. Luke McEwen, who's just handed this car over to Bosch, has indicated to me that at the lowest, the tires are looking at 63% wear. Now, usually, I say usually in an endurance race, the magic number is about 70. If you're lower than 70%, it's a bit of a gamble to try and double stint the tires. But I think in a 2-hour sprint like this, it's not such a gamble. And I think poor Gabby Montoro, poor Danny Elgube, I think they've just had a technical issue that's dropping them. You can see left side of your screen, MSI sliding downwards.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened there. I think you're absolutely right that it might be a technical issue of some description, because they're not showing on the server at the moment, which is a shame because they were running really quite well. But again, more issues for the MSI Esports squad. Obviously had pole position back in Road Atlanta, but it wasn't their race. It was BS Competition's race. I think they might actually be back in.
Oh, they are?
Yeah, they are. I have never seen a car disappear for that long.
Yes. And
still be in the server. I mean, if that is the case, bravo, and we will keep our fingers crossed.
I think Danny Elgube has just done an internet dance to get it working again. It's the opposite of a rain dance. You want your internet to work, you jump around and pray to the gods. Elgube had also just told me, I was chatting with him, PTSD to what happened last time. Remember, pole position at Sebring, did control the first stint of the race, but was unable to do any fuel saving. Still was in a good spot to get a top 3, but then, unfortunately, the tires literally got to 0. So they got an iRacing meatball. They had no grip. They scrambled across the line. Danny Elgube saying that he wishes they had taken 2 tires now rather than 4.
Yeah, but
hindsight, right?
You make your bed, you lay in it. I mean, to be fair, at this point, I'd almost say it's too early to be, I wish I did this rather than that, because the thing is it would be
You don't know how it's going to end.
Yeah, exactly. There's still 42 minutes left in this race, and you know what can kind of change in that time is that things will look really bad for you taking 4 tyres for the next half hour, and then suddenly things start going wrong for those on 2s, things start going wrong for those on 4 or no tyres, and then you start closing that gap, and you think, actually, no, I'm very glad that I took those 4. It's obviously a long-winded gamble, but you never really know. I'd still probably be preferring to have taken 2 or none, but still, just enjoy what you've got.
So Valtteri Alander on the back of Thompson. The gap to the leader is held fairly steady. It's still only about 9.8. It's only been about 2-3 tenths the last couple of lap times. So it's not coming as quickly as I would have thought it would have. And that 777 can't afford to get bottled up behind a car that, again, has a 5-second penalty.
Yeah, and also not only that, but look at the car that's directly ahead of that. Of course, it's the big red machine, BS Competition 96. That's not going to be an easy one to pass.
It's the 1996, don't forget.
It's the 1996, yeah. Which is just... Can people start... Can we have this where we can remove people's numbers from as in, like, can teams just remove numbers, please?
Or can they just register correctly? Because...
That would be great.
Well, I was going to say that, you know... Maybe someone else has stolen their number. It was Urano. There's a number 90 Urano car. That's why.
But I think you have to roll with the number that then you get. Yes, sure, you don't.
But you can't change your team name during the race itself. I know what you're saying.
Yeah, just don't have it.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, that would probably be. Or make it red line red, for example. There goes a lander, and that is as aggressive as you can get without running off the track. And I think Bosch Thompson flashed the lights and like, come on, mate, you just cost us both time.
That was a bold move, I think I'll say. But to be fair, he needs to get on with it, and he knows it. As RHG Esports do get past the Urano Esports HKM car at the back end of the top 10, so that is the final points paying position, switching into pretty much what looks like the same corner as well. So might actually be a fairly similar move. But yeah, for Kova, if I was Thompson, I would have kind of been expecting that kind of move. You know that Kova car's got to get on with it, and Valtteri Alander, who's not exactly the most aggressive and egregious of drivers, but he knows how to race.
You remember ISOWC Long Beach,
right? I do remember Long Beach. I also remember, was it
Auto
Fontana?
Club? Yep.
Yeah. And that was Orlando, wasn't it?
Christian Steele does not want us to be bringing that up, that's for sure. Diogo Pinto down the inside of Gabby Montoro. I think Montoro may be also being cautious. According to Danny Elgube, Montoro had no issue on his end. So whatever the issue was, it's something that was isolated to everybody else. He was seeing cars. No one else likely would have seen him. That is a scary proposition, I will tell you right now.
But I think it's kind of one of those things that you kind of don't really think about too much, but you do learn when it happens, is that even if every car does disappear, what do? You keep driving. You keep driving until it is like you've lost connection. Like it's clear that you're gone, right? You just keep driving, keep hammering in the lap times. If you can see anyone, can't see anyone, just keep driving, keep sticking to the racing line, because that's it's critical.
Oh, Becky.
Oh no, what's Becky done now?
Well, okay, I tell you what, there's a couple of replays to go take a look at. So let's first go and have a look
Dylan Scrivens, by the way, just clarifying.
Yes, Dylan Becky Scrivens. So something first happens to an REG car. Oh, just overcooks the braking, doesn't he?
Was that to the back of the Volante, was it?
I think so, yeah. That looks like the Volante car. So that was a while ago, as we look at your race leader, who's cleared off 5.5 seconds, basically, to his teammates. So Rainer Talvar is, well, a tire god. Tire whisperer, I would say.
Both of them must be, between Talvar and Dinez, because they are well in control of this car in this season. BS Competition looking not only to make history, but a 1-2 as well. I think the second car might be a little trickier, but they'll put up a fight. And the thing is with it being a 5-second gap now, that is a big gap. Kova's the only really one that can close it down, because Team Redline Blue 15 seconds over what will probably be closer to now 20 laps. Yes, that gap can come down, but again, reminder, it's the 5 seconds above that as well. I don't think this is Becky's fault. I think he might be spun here. He is by Obsidian.
I'm still going to blame Becky.
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you? I would.
Is the rejoin good? Yeah, he's all right there. I can't.
He's all right. We're looking at it. We're just literally trying to find things that Dylan Scrivens does wrong right now.
So here's the look from up above. camera angle brought to you by ATVO. So inside line is the preferred groove. He does miss it by about half a car's length, width, excuse me, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think the thing is that Obsidian car was not alongside enough to warrant
pushing out that wide. Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, yeah, that
was scary,
okay.
Wasn't it?
Okay, yeah, right. So we'll take a breather and we'll come back to that. Let's not cover the 89 for the rest of the race, because as much as we're not biased on this broadcast, I would quite like to see history being made. It is always kind of one of those things of like, regardless of what the team is, we like those stats and stuff. We like the competition's history being broken and new stories being formed. And if that is denied by a disco, I mean, yeah, no thanks.
See, a disco is a very upbeat way of putting it, I would
exactly.
say.
They want a very different style of disco.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that is for sure. Looks like red line purple getting past Florian Lebigra into that slower chicane, excuse me. Lots of debate between Lewis and myself before we went live as to what the name of that chicane is. Is it the Vidal or the NGK chicane? If you know, let us know, because there's no track map, which actually is 100% accurate and will tell you.
Yeah, it's also the consistencies that I can show you. For every track map that you show me that it says Vidal, I can show you one that says NGK. So it's again suboptimal. That's why we're calling it the chicane, the RaceSpot chicane. I think we should just call it. I think we should.
We just need to name every corner after a RaceSpot member. So we're coming into the Lewis McLeod Arena.
Oh, nice! I get more than one corner. This is fantastic.
I mean, Simi Award winners, right? That's why. For those who for those who missed the VCO Race Against the Flood, which we did in support of, after the flooding in the Eifel Mountains, VCO put on in conjunction with us here at RaceSpot, a charity race. One of the most entertaining broadcasts I've ever seen. We got Peter Mackay singing Backstreet Boys, which is Hall of Fame worthy moment. But what we did do is we auctioned off various parts of the track as to be sold. So there was a corner called the Kunky Curve, except it wasn't called that. It was a little less PG-13. There was also, we renamed the track, so it's no longer called the Nürburgring. It's called the George Simmons 3/4 ring.
Because he did a lap backwards, didn't he?
Yes. Well, and I think they only paid enough to buy 3/4 of the name.
3/4 of it. Yeah.
So you see, we're having fun. Word from the BS Competition Garage: we wouldn't be doubling if our tires weren't good. That is confidence.
I was going to say that is. I was like, oh. Ooh, that's a bit almost egotistical. But like the thing is self-belief is important in all forms of racing.
Well, and data
real
as well.
Awesome, and yeah, the information's there. Like they'll look at it and they all know. Like they'll almost know almost immediately on the stop. They'll be like, "Can we do it? Can't we do it? Yay or nay?" And clearly they can. So there's no panics behind the scenes. Why would there be?
So with 34 minutes to go, Kova is only 9 seconds behind. Red line blue, 14 seconds on track, 19 seconds when all penalties are factored in. Next target for the 777 is going to be that BS Competition 1996 car, because that's now almost 7 seconds back from the leader.
Do you think Red line blue have blown this quite a bit, considering the lead they had earlier, or do you think they were pushing too hard on the tyres, or do you think it was the commentator's curse, which doesn't exist?
I think, and it's hard to know, let's just be real here, as we look at a battle between Ozan Walsh and David Toth in the Arnage and Altus Esports entries, I think the second that they got that 5-second penalty, there was only two ways to approach it, right? One is you save the tyres, which means going slow to go fast, if that makes sense. Or you just go guns blazing, pedal to the metal, and see what happens. Now, I guess the question really is, could they have taken 2 tires? I think that's probably the bigger question. Which,
again, only one team will know, and that is them. They will, they'll be well aware as to any mistakes they've made. The thing is, if that is the case, if it is purely down to the reaction to the 5-second time penalty, then that's where the issues of this race started. If you're going to throw it away at any point, that was it, right? Because it was one pretty aggressive defensive move that sealed your fate in this race. So even if they were to blame it back to the 5-second time penalty, who earned the 5-second time penalty? You know, it's as simple as that. So either way, I'd almost say they've blown it regardless. For now, this is very early. It's very early days. Still got half an hour to go. Yeah, I'm more than happy to eat my hat or whatever, however you want to put it. But
I'm going to hold you to that. You're going to
have a hat.
You're going to actually have to eat a hat. We'll get one for you.
Oh, do we have a RaceSpot hat?
Not yet, but that's a good idea. RSTV.shop if you do want to get some delightful RaceSpot merch, including is Max in the split, which we can tell you, no, he's not. He's racing somewhere else this weekend. That's wide from Gianni Vecchio, but crucially, he's on the back of the second of the Cova cars, Antiohola. Remember, 2 ties for him. Very, very interesting to see how easy it is for Vecchio to try and close, much more difficult to try and pass.
Yeah, that was an attempt, shall we say, down into 6, and there's the defensive line from the 707. Door wide open, though, and bam, straight down the inside. Vecchio sends it, gets there, gets past. That was pretty well read from the Team Redline blue car. It was the semi-defence and then back over to the racing line. That was the opportunity to throw it down the inside, very much like almost PK Mansell-esque at Silverstone.
I think, if anything, going so defensive is going to hurt Cova more than it would help them, because they'll be, chased down now by Redline Purple, MSI, and the 2 RAG cars. It's only 5 seconds splitting the 707 from the final points-paying position. I think Cova now looking backwards in that 707. It's the 777 that is looking forward. The gap between the leading Cova car and the Redline 72 is now just 5 seconds on the road. Redline Blue, it's obvious, not as obvious as your. The gap's either going to decrease, increase, or stay where it is statement. But
great content.
Great insight.
Honestly.
Great insight from Simi Award winner Lewis McLeod. But I'd almost argue that Redline Blue are making miles more headway than Cova in a way that lends me to believe, if not for that 5-second penalty, 4 tires for Redline Blue might have been the preferred option regardless.
Maybe. It's kind of one of those ones, again, we'll find out in half hour's time as to what the right strategy is, because I think we still, even if we have the 5-second time penalty that decides the race, we still need to know what's the right strategy, which we will find out either way. We are going to find out in half an hour as to whether it was 4-2 or 0, which, to be fair, in this race, I am just over the moon that we've had all 3 strategies playing out, and all 3 within their own sort of shot of victory. By the way, also speaking of battles, Cova's right on BS Competition 1996.
Yes, but there is a note from race control. The contact between the 89, so the leader in this race, and the Redline red car will be investigated post-race.
Maybe they get a 5-second time penalty.
So that's now the number that we have to, I think, have in the back of our minds.
Yeah, I think let's obviously not say it one way or the other, because obviously that's down to race control and that'll be dealt with later on. But I think if they win by 5 seconds, then all's good, potentially. But if they win by less than 5 seconds, it is up for big debate.
I think it's hard unless Valtteri Alander gets so stuck behind that 1996 car. I think that gap is definitely less than 5 seconds. I agree. Yeah, I don't think there's a world where I can really imagine that the 777 doesn't manage to close enough. So bated breath as to what is going to happen there. Here comes, down the inside, the Flying Finn, your 2021 ISO WC champion. Nice and easy. The 777 up to second.
Yeah, it was not fought at all by the big red machine down into the first corner. So that's a nice little tidy move from Cova. Next one to come through, you'll see him just come through the back of shot there, of course, is the Team Redline blue car. Redline blue just gone straight down the inside of the orange car. Obviously, that one wasn't getting fought. Vecchio straight down the inside of Josh Thompson.
Did you see the lights flashing?
Yeah, I mean, it might be okay, thanks, bye. Well, I'll talk to you later, maybe. No. It was a big send from Vecchio. But to be fair, especially if you're Josh Thompson making your debut in the team, I'd probably recommend not flashing your teammate as they've thrown by. That's probably not going to go down. It's probably not going to be spoken about. But realistically, if it was, it wouldn't go down too well.
Yeah, Don Duhan, well, I'm not sure how he'd take to that. I tell you what, let's go back and let's grab a look at this incident between the Redline Red and the BS competition car and get a sense for what we think. So we did say it, there's a healthy dose of air there.
Yeah, and I think there's, I know it's obviously kind of, oh god, that is a terrible rejoin, by the way.
It is so
like almost crawling back onto the racing line whilst cars are coming round. That is not a good idea from Beneke, but we'll see it really on board here from the Kova car. For me, there's way too much in there. There's way too much in there to penalise the BS competition.
Yeah, I'd also argue that you get a good sense of the line that Dinez, because it was Dinez behind the wheel there, is taking. Because you see where Ahola is, right? Ahola's running that more natural line. Dinez is a little bit more to the inside, trying to give enough racing room.
And you can see at the point of contact, shall we say, there is the BS competition car is moving back over to the left. You can kind of see it here. The body language is it's turning left as the red line car drops it, essentially. It's not an easy one, and I understand why that is being dealt with post-race. And the thing is, it's kind of one of those scenarios where regardless of the decision that race control come to, you've got to respect it. Whether you think it's right or wrong doesn't really matter. If race control say it's a penalty, say it's a penalty. If they don't, they don't.
Respect race control decisions. What alternate universe do you live in? Antiohola.
It's easy to say it when you're a commentator.
Right. Antiohola's past Josh Thompson, who now loses an extra spot to Diogo Pinto again. Team game going on there. You would never expect for Thompson to really hold him up too much further. And again, 5 seconds will be added to Thompson's time. You can't afford to lose more than 5 seconds to Alexander Thieber, who would then steal a points position away from him, because I do think Thompson's just going to slide back to the end of this top 10.
Agree. Yeah, I do agree, but has plenty of time to do so. Obviously, it's 10 seconds back to that red line yellow car over the next 26 minutes, and again, it's also your sort of sister teammate anyway. They're not going to drop back to the Urano Esports HKM car that's not only way too far back, obviously 14 seconds back from the red line orange car, but also has the same tyre strategy of no tyres. So that ain't going to change. I think that they're looking for a worse position of 11th here, and obviously aiming to try and beat their teammates to 10th after that 5-second time penalty. But with 25 minutes left to go, Kova are closing in. It looks like it's going to be to the tune of around about 4/10 on this lap, as they'll come across. Talvar does a 55.1. Valtteri Alander across the line does a 54.7. See, I'm all right at this.
Yeah, you're not bad.
4/10 of a second, which I don't think is enough, by the way.
So let's say
close down.
Yeah, about 10 minimum, maybe 13 maximum laps from here. It's not enough.
Yeah. No, it is not. Obviously, if that 5-second time penalty comes in,
right,
it is a 5 second, then it is open. But you can't rely on that. You can't roll back to that. I think, by the way, on this lap, we might see a potential position switch for third, because I think Vecchio's closed right in on the big red machine.
He has indeed. Only 1 second back. As you grab a look there, you also see Diogo Pinto, 4 tyres for him, starting to make some headway on Antiohola in that 707. I do like that, you know, for the most part in 2021, I think it's fair to say, whether it was the M8, whether it was the M4, strategy was basically universal across the teams. No tyres, fill the car up with fuel, and roll off. Yeah. We've got some intrigue this year.
Honestly, I'm loving it. I think this is what we want to see from a 2-hour race, is where it is a sprint race, but there is difference on strategy. You can make it up, you can experiment and try something different. And the thing is the actual theoretical race time of no tyres, 4 tyres and 2 tyres aren't actually that far apart. And that's where you get all of these great ingredients for good, solid racing, which we have had. Yes, of course, the first bit was a bit too chaotic, and we've had maybe a bit too much of a lull coming into the first pit stop sequence, but realistically speaking, as that is the next move, by the way, for Redline Orange. They've got to deal with Zemasai. We're closing right in, and there was a pretty sizable moment there from Vecchio that dropped him right off the rear end of the BS competition red car.
Red car?
Yep.
Oh, BS competition red.
BS
Sorry.
Competition red. Yeah.
I misheard you. I was like, where did Redline Red come into the equation here?
I don't know, mate. I'm not even speaking English at this point.
So there's a look down the inside. I think that was Diogo
Purple.
Pinto. Yeah, and not going to be fought hard. I think this is, again, that realization that you've made your bed with the tires. You've got to lay in it now. Oh, that's bullied out of the way. Loses 1, loses 2. Josh Thompson down to 9th.
Yeah, and the 10th final spot there sat for RHG. Vlad Kimichev looked straight down the inside there, the defensive move, but did back out of it from Thompson. He was kind of committing to it and then thought, nope, that car's going for it, no point in fighting that, and now just has to watch the not that far away from 5 seconds. That gap was 10 seconds to the Team Redline yellow car about 3 minutes ago, and now is much, much less than that, as there has been a move for third.
Gianni Vecchio does get past finally with 22 minutes on the clock. That's optimistic from the BS Competition red car with those worn tires. To have a look down the inside is just going to bring him into the clutches of the Redline Purple and the Kova cars behind. Redline Blue, we know, with 11 seconds, 22 minutes, they need what? Half a second, a minute basically, which is, I think, a little... It's asking for a little too much. I also think Kova, we said this earlier, I think Kova's not in the mix either at this point, unless the penalty changes the game. We're not in for the kind of blockbuster finish that we enjoyed and were spoiled by, let's be honest, last time at Sebring.
So good. That finish, I mean, yes, there was a bit of contact coming down to that hairpin, but anyone who hasn't seen the finish from Sebring, go back and watch the last couple of laps, because it was such a good fight between Phil Dinez and Patrick Holtzman, all coming down into the hairpin. Really breathtaking stuff. On the limit, firing on all cylinders. It's tough racing, but I'm okay. I'm a touring car driver, so I'm okay with a little bit of contact. I'm not okay with someone pushing someone out of the way, but a little bit of rubbing, I can turn a blind eye to, as there is Diogo Pinto straight down the inside. Not a particularly difficult one.
No, that's as easy as pie.
Well, you're speaking Ewan O'Leary's language right now.
I was waiting for the northern reference to get slung in.
Yeah, exactly. There was a team in a race we were doing yesterday. It's called Whitey's Pies. He was loving it. Oh. They caused one of the largest crashes I've ever seen in my life in sim racing. It was at Road Atlanta and went off at turn 5 straight into the barrier in an LMP2 in front of the entire grid.
I could imagine.
And no one braked, and the crash went all the way down to turn 6. It was amazing.
Bit of contact there between Ahola and the BS Competition red car. So what you're saying is there were some proper arc brakes.
Oh, it was, yeah, no, I didn't scream it though at the top of my voice.
That's a shame. Obsidian going wheel to wheel with the Williams Esports Chill Blast car. Oh, a bit more. Now, Obsidian does have a penalty. We didn't mention this earlier, but the contact with Urano has been adjudicated and a 5-second penalty for this Obsidian car. So, at the very least, they'll slide back a couple of spots with Zenith right behind them now as well. Like I said, there's plenty of action up and down through the field. It's not a boring race by any means.
No, especially considering it is the 6th, and we're going with 6th, are we? 6th best layout of the 2nd best track in the world.
6th best layout of the best track in the world, correct yourself.
Yeah, exactly,
Clean
the 2nd best track in the world, yeah, you're absolutely right. But we're getting our fair share. It's normally pretty tricky, but this is a bit of a dicey fight between the BS Competition 96-90, Kova, MSI in there as well. They were pretty close to chopping each other about,
MSI.
and now RHG joined the fight.
MSI got a slowdown, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there they go. Gabby Montoro back to 9th, so he's got to do all that hard work over again. Might even still have more of a slowdown to serve, to be honest. He's pulled all the way down to the inside. Now, which way does Ahola go? The long way around? Oh, it's not really an option. Will he try the up and under and set something up into the arena? But again, he'd be on the outside. Don't think it's going to happen just yet.
Yeah, not quite. Now, you might get the up and under for that final part, but it's actually really, it's a lot tricky to do. Everyone seems to think that it's really easy to sort of get up and under, but where the second corner is so long, actually timing it right to get that up and under and find that late apex is really, really difficult. And you typically have to outbrake them into the next corner, so not ideal. But RHG are charging, and the RHG cars have been very fast. We saw how fast they were in qualifying. Not like 7th and 8th is not what they want, and they have got pace to get a bit further up the order than that.
Will Tregurtha has just gotten past Ozan Walsh in the Altus 43. We were watching Wiltra go through in real world competition
Yeah,
last week.
indeed. Yeah.
Here comes Florian Lebigra, gets one, gets two. He's past Antiohola, and he might just be able to squeeze his way around the BS competition car side by side up through the Schumacher S's. How close do they really want to be? 18 minutes left to go. Oh.
Yeah, now both the R8Gs are going to the outside. Big defensive move there from BS Competition and Cobra. Bit of contact as well. BS Competition running that R8G off. R8G back to the inside of Cobra as well. So got to the head of the field as the 88, but the teammate in the 8 is just sat there behind an MSI Esports are a part of it as well. Absolute madness. Great bit of racing there. A little bit aggressive there on the defence from BS Competition, but fantastic stuff. And now the 8's going around the outside of the chicane. That one is not going to work.
But does it open the door for... Oh, Montoro tried it, but just couldn't get the car rotated. Very slow through that second part of the chicane. They get back into single file for now. Update from Race Control. That car there, no further action for the contact with Team Redline Red. We did build it up.
You built that up as like it was going to be like a 10-second time penalty too. There, I was genuinely panicked. I thought I read the wrong thing.
Did you like my drama?
It was very dramatic. No, I'm all about that.
So, crucially though, Kova is 5.5 back. 17 minutes to go. They've got to push. From here, there's nothing... They can afford to lose a couple of seconds with a small issue. They can't afford to lose 10 seconds. But remember, Redline Blue in that 72 car, 5 seconds added to the time there.
Yes, indeed. Like I say, there's a few penalties to be dished out post-race. Yeah, various 5s, 10s, a couple of 20 or A20 as well. There are some pretty intense penalties after some of the crazy racing that we've seen, but the most notable ones do go to the Team Redline grouping of blue and orange. But right now, as Kova do get past the big red machine, and that opens the door for R8G also to come through up into the Schumacher S. Surely you've got to back out a little bit of contact as well. Oh. I think it was the BS Competition trying to get back into line that kind of misjudged it.
Yes, no, it was. I think he realized he couldn't hold on the inside that time, given how much speed. Oh, Gabby Montoro runs wide as they sweep their way onto this back straightaway. I'm loving this. Fantastic stuff.
This is a bit of fun. This is what the cool kids would call mad bands.
This is what the cool kids would call the life of the party as well, the cool part of the party.
Or some which I was told to sneak onto the GB3 coverage last week. It's absolutely based.
What does that even mean?
Really good, I think.
What does cap mean? There's all these new words.
Honestly, no idea. Someone was like, no cap, and I'm like,
What is these? Yeah, these just 3 letters thrown together that mean something that puts on your head is put on your head. Here comes Gabby Montoro down the inside of the big red car that's just sliding backwards. He's got no grip. There's not much he can do. And no tires. Well, BS Competition down to 9th. Remember though, this is about where they were heading into the cycle, so the gamble didn't pay off. I think it was worth a try though, because at worst they are looking at getting 10th. I think that Apex Racing 98 car too far back with just a quarter of an hour left to go.
So the strategy is no cap or cap? I don't know. I don't know what's good or bad. This is like when people used to say sick.
Sheesh.
I had to get that onto a few podcasts as well.
I had to. 4 seconds. 4 seconds. The gap. We're just making ourselves feel old here, aren't we?
Wow.
4 seconds. The gap for the lead, though.
Yeah, no, I don't have any words for you, Arjun. I think we're going to have to sit down and go through a certain dictionary. I think after this
of the urban type.
After this broadcast, because we've got no idea what's going on right now. But that gap is absolutely coming down. So it's 4 seconds now with 8 laps to go.
It's closing quicker and quicker now as well.
Closing quicker and quicker, yes.
8/10 last time by as Alexander Thieber slides on past new Redline teammate Josh Thompson. Again, we expected that to happen, and Thompson, with 5 seconds added to his time, will fall behind the Maxime Brient 98 car as well. Last time it was 8/10, almost 9/10 of a second. What will it be this time?
Yeah, Reina Talvar across the line. Last that time was a 55.2. This time it's a 55.4. Oh, it's not looking good. What is the Kova car do behind? 54.4, 1 second. So let's go back to that message that you got from BS Competition. The almost came across as a bit of arrogance when it comes to, and I do like to throw drivers under the bus.
You do. You do.
We wouldn't do it. What was it? What was the direct quote? We wouldn't do
They wouldn't do it if they didn't
know.
If they weren't good. I think that was the phrasing.
Yeah. So how's that looking now? Not switched yet.
Didn't I also say that there was basically no way it was going to close up? I better eat my words here too.
Yeah, to be fair, I was also in the same boat. So, you know, in that sense, we will.
Well,
but,
sorry, I'm gonna cut you off here because the Apex Racing strategists who, those who know George Simmons will know that he's also worked in mission control for the McLaren Formula One team. So, depending on when he was in mission control, we'll judge his ability based on the results for McLaren. But he's produced some pretty interesting visualizations of a lot of your iRacing special events in 2022. He's just told me lap 63, which is estimated to be the final lap of this race, he thinks Gianni Vecchio catches BS competition.
Even from that far back, oof. I mean, maybe. The thing is, though, is obviously there's a 5-second time better on that car as well, so they've got a bit more work to do. But I think we're in for an interesting, potentially, regardless of penalties, I think we're in for a nice, tasty, potentially three-way fight for the lead in the last 12 minutes of this race, potentially coming down to that final lap. And Sebring, it came down to the wire. But here we weren't expecting it. We might get it, though.
I think it's 3 seconds. It's 3 seconds. What has Valtteri Alander eaten for lunch today? That's clearly the question. And
Caps.
Did you really just say that?
I don't know. Whatever it was cap or not cap.
It was one of the two. But we talk about Alander as, you know, a driver that's very, very capable in an open wheel car. We've seen flashes of pace from him in GTs before, but I don't think we've seen a stint like we've seen from him today, where he's been consistent in terms of the pace, executed the passes nicely as well, which is important. Let's not de-emphasize how critical it is to execute passes in a tidy fashion to work your way forward, as Steve now passed that BS competition 1996 car. Really impressed by what we're seeing. The other Kova car.
Oh, well, that was a pitch. Yeah, good, mate. I think only dogs can hear that one. But Kova, yeah, whilst one car is going great, the other one, I'm going to say at this point in the race, unlike how he had it with the RHG Junior car earlier on, where it was a solo thing, I'm going to probably take a wild stab in the dark and say that was assisted, and the RHG car right behind probably alludes to that.
Oh, so it is a bit of a block. Let's not miss
It's quite a substantial block.
But MSI.
I think space was given, though. That's the thing.
MSI probably has a good look at the line that they take.
There was also. Yeah. No, to be fair, that's the one where I would ignore that, and I'd be like, well, there was probably going to be contact anyway.
Yeah, netcode at its core is just prediction, right?
But what is it predicting, though?
I'm not going to say it. I don't want to get in that
Can
much
I
trouble.
Say it?
Yeah, sure.
There's idiot prediction.
There you go. Oh, that RAG car is almost into the grass. Now, the track does jut back out to the right, so maybe that's a mitigating factor. But race control, they're the ones that have to decide. 2.2, the gap out front.
What you can say with that is that the Kova car was quite aggressive on the defence, and the RHG wasn't really alongside. So it's kind of, it's not actually a clear-cut one. I can see that one being an NFA or being a penalty. Like that's one where it's kind of like there is pretty substantial evidence for both in that, and I don't really know which way I'd go. I'd almost lean towards an NFA, if I'm honest. Not an easy one.
Yeah, that's the reality. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea. Under 10 minutes to go, though, in round 4 of this BMW SIM GT Cup for 2022. Looks like the red line orange car has gone past BS competition. Now, by virtue of Kova dropping out of the top 10, guess who's going to get some points?
Oh, well, orange. Oh no, as the Apex, of course, because they've got the penalty for the orange car. So yeah, fair enough. Working though, I said they had to just basically bide their time. Obviously, courtesy of some great moves from Alejandro Sanchez a bit earlier on in the race, but on the cusp of even more points.
So I do want to have a quick look at as well. There's an Apex car that's got a penalty. Which one is it? It's the 98. Oh wait, never mind. It's the 99. Getting myself all sorts of twisted there. So the Apex 99 car is the one that's got the 10-second penalty. So regardless, Apex is getting a point. they could be looking at a couple of points if they can get past the BS competition car as well. Don't count out Kova, right behind them as well, but we've got to look up front right now. 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's coming down quite quickly. Again, the last lap times, the gap between them was half a second. The thing is that BS competition car, the 89 that's leading, can pretty comfortably sit in the low 55s, which isn't good enough. The Kova car is lapping pretty much every single lap. In fact, actually, I'm going to read these out, the last few from Mr. Valtteri, and the last 5. It was a 54.4, a 55.4, 55.2, not bad, 55.4 and a 55.4. That is pretty consistent from someone who we know is the Iceman, ice cool with all that kind of stuff. 54.9 the last lap from Rainer Talvar. Again, it's close to those 55s. Whilst it's been very close and very consistent in the low 55s, it is not good enough to hang on right now. That Kova car is going to be knocking at the door. We're going to see some pretty feisty racing. And don't count for the 2 red line cars as well behind blue.
Disqualification for BS competition in the 96. We don't talk about it much, but there is an incident limit, and BS competition's big red machine is out in the blink of an eye.
They were looking for a 1-2 as well. That's rough. Of course, to speak of the instant limit, there was 25 incidents they're allowed to make over the course of the race. For anyone who doesn't really watch too much iRacing or doesn't understand, iRacing is pretty simple. 1 instant point is track limits, and then loss of control, a spin, is 2, and then basically car contact can be anything between 0, 2 or 4, right? Typically it does come down to 4. Light brushes and stuff can be 0. And I think if you lightly tap someone into a spin, it becomes a 2. Well, I don't really remember.
It's anywhere from 0 to 4, the incident points of it. It's the best way to describe it. 6 minutes to go. We're in for a fight. Here comes that 777. He's close, but again, he's not close enough to get past and then build a 5-second advantage. Surely not.
I meant I wonder who's close to the instant point because I'm pretty sure, considering some of these have had to fight their way through it, I'm going to say there's probably a couple on this grid that aren't a million miles away. I'd say this fight is a straight-up fight between Kova and BS competition. The purple car, though, the Team Redline Purple doesn't have a penalty, though, does it?
No, it doesn't.
And it's closing in as well at the same speed that Redline Blue is.
So, how do you play this if you're Redline?
Don't know. Part of me, deep down, I'd be like, if that red line purple car has a chance to go for the victory, it needs to
give it.
be
Yeah,
given.
You go for it.
It needs to be gone because the red line blue car is going to finish 4th, right? In this race, that red line blue car, unless something dramatic happens, that red line blue car is going to finish 4th because it's got a 5-second time penalty that'll drop it behind the purple car regardless. So I'd almost be like, switch them. If you're going to finish 4th anyway, you might as well get it over and done with and let the purple car go.
No, I 100% agree. But I think with that in mind, the impetus has to be on Valtteri Alander to not dawdle. He has got to get past Rainer Talvar for the lead as quickly as possible and then try and run away because his tires are getting to the edge of limit as well. Let's not beat around the bush there. He's only 3 and a bit seconds in front of that Redline 69 car.
Well, here we go. This is going to be a tense final 5 minutes. 3 laps left to go here at the Nürburgring, and I think history is about to be, kept consistent, shall we say. I don't think we're breaking it today because Kova knocking at the door. I think that 777 is going to hit the lead right now.
Now, the 89 shouldn't fight this. Points on the line for BMW Sim Live. So important. Race leader has changed. It is now Valtteri Alander, a big old slobber knocker of a outside wiggle for that 89 car will drop him about half a second back into the clutches of the red line duo. Valtteri Alander, 4 minutes to go. Just looking forward.
Yeah, and we'd basically not ruled it out completely, but we'd kind of ruled out the 777 from actually doing this. But clearly, they found something in them. It's still not over yet because the red line blue, the red line purple, they are closing in. It's now about what position does BS competition finish in. You'd have to say right now, without contact or drama, the worst place they can finish realistically is 3rd.
Yes.
Which I take if I'm battling for the championship. I mean, it's still 15 points apiece, so that's more than acceptable.
No further action between RAG and Kova. Race control adjudicating Not worthy of a penalty there. Think it now opens the door for maybe Gabby Montoro to have a launch on Vlad Kimichev for what will be 6th position there. Again, you call it a championship, but ultimately it's all just accumulating points on the road to BMW Sim Live. We haven't talked about how many teams, how many drivers are going to work their way into our end-of-year showcase of BMW Sim Racing, but at the end of the day, you want to be as close to the front as possible. You don't want those last 3 or 4 races to be filled with anxiety.
No, I think you kind of have to treat it as a championship, especially at the moment, which is playing the long game. It's hoovering up points. It's not taking any unnecessary risk to try and go for a race victory that really isn't needed to go for. Play the long game. If you can guarantee yourself later on, then you get to start having a bit of fun in the final 3 races. You know, like really start attacking for it and doing some random stuff and experimenting on the strategy and stuff. Right now, do the hard work now. Don't do the hard work later on. Start playing the long game right from the off. BS competition are very good at that.
So 2 laps to go. Now, does Red Line Blue have a launch into the final corner? They will, and I think they get the urgency to try and close the gap to Cover out front. 2 minutes, 2 laps to go. It comes down again to the final couple of laps of the race. Does Red Line Blue let Red Line Purple on through?
Yeah, Purple then getting through. Diogo Pinto making that move and clearing the position of Reina Talvar. Wasn't a particularly difficult one, but Talvar just needs to sit there now. Well, might have to, you know, maybe a little bit of a worry that the speed the R8G Sports is closing in, but it's not 3 seconds a lap, which is where they'd have to really be concerned. Right now, Talvar just needs to keep it on the road and avoid that meatball. Do not get a puncture. Look after the tyres. It might be a light concern. I don't think it'll be too major. But
last
still,
lap,
I'm sure it'll be on their mind.
Last lap response from Valtteri Alander, a 54.292 compares to a 54.008 for Diogo Pinto. Has Alander just saved the last little bit of the tyre to push here for what will be the final, 7.5 odd kilometers? That gap between Kova and the Red Line Blue car down to 1.4. Surely Vecchio has got to let Pinto by into the chicane.
Unless Vecchio's going to try and make a move on Alander, where Alander doesn't need to fight it because he knows he's got a 5-second time penalty, does the Team Red Line Blue car, but it might open the door for the purple car to come through as well. This is it. Red Line can play a little bit of a strategical game here to get that purple car into the lead of the race. It's not easy. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it is possible. Not that many opportunities left to go, though. And so for Vecchio, you've got to kind of think of where is he going to make that move. He's not going to be close enough into turn 1 at this point. Not really going to be close enough, I'd say, even down to the hairpin with the rate that they're catching, which would probably mean that maybe in 1 lap's time, it might come down to this chicane.
Are you implying that Red Line is going to play some bumper cars here?
Not bumper cars, not bumper cars. I think they might, like Vecchio might just dive down the inside to open the door a little bit for the purple car to follow its way through. I'm not insinuating any contact or saying that anyone's a dirty driver. We're all right.
5 and a bit kilometers to go. Can the 777 hold off the charge from behind? Time is about to expire. White flag is in the air, and Red Line Purple, 1.7 seconds, their deficit to close up on.
Yeah, it's going to be a madness, to be honest, the end of this. If we're going to get a 2nd consecutive proper last lap showdown, I am all about the BMW Sim GT Cup in 2022. I mean, I am anyway, with the strategies and stuff that we've been having today. Absolutely brilliant, a breathtaking showcase of what we have here. Around a circuit which typically isn't the greatest racing venue known to mankind. And if we can do it here, wait till we go to Watkins Glen in just over a month's time. That's going to be a barnstorming race, surely.
We've been spoiled this year. I think that puts it mildly. Down into the hairpin, it's 3/10 the gap between Vecchio and Pinto. They still don't swap around. 1 second, though, between Alander and Vecchio with half a lap to go.
Well, here we go then. Schumacher S really throw it in, a 110% commitment, completely flat, of course. At least I'm pretty sure it is. I'm going to take a while to have a dark. It was when I was racing here in GT3, so absolutely throw it over those curves. I don't know, Arjuna. I don't think this is close enough. I think if Kova do not make a mistake, I think this might be good.
I think they are. On to the back straight for the final time. Again, for the 2nd time in 2 races, it's come down to this final lap of Valtteri Alander. It's clear of the Red Line duo behind as they chase him down at the chicane. One final launch potentially, but it's just too big a gulf. Strategy again has reared its head. That's been the name of the game in the 2022 BMW Sim GT Cup. But for the 3rd time in 3 years, Valtteri Alander and Kova will punch their way into victory lane in the BMW SIM GT Cup. What a race we've just had. Oh, incredible, incredible drive. And ultimately, it was that strategy call to take the 2 tires that's led to Valtteri Alander and Thomas Tattler winning this race.
Yeah, yet another race victory there for Kova. It's actually the first time they've won in the 777 car, though. I don't know how much you want to read on stats. It was the 707, of course. They won back in Road Atlanta in 2020 with Tattler and Valtteri Alander. Tattler and Pekka Toivonen, of course, won back in the opening round of the second season in 2021. And now, Matti Sieppula and Valtteri Alander do the work for the 777. That's a pretty solid race victory, if I do say so. Of course, there are some penalties to be dished out, but as far as I'm aware, none of those go to Kova.
I forgot it was Matti Sieppula for a second. I thought Thomas Tattler had just won three times in BMW Sim competition. But $1,200 to Valtteri Alander, $1,200 to Matti Sieppula. Sterling drive from them. And again, even though Redline Blue finishes second on the road, they'll drop to 4th on our final standings. Ultimately, though, it's all about the accumulation of points for BMW Sim Live. Both the 89 and the 72 looking very, very strong, not even halfway through this 2022 campaign.
Like I say, they're trying to secure their spots now, right? They're not trying to wait too long. Although I will say, when it comes to Team Redline, one car, once again, for 4 rounds, they've only had one decent race. Team Redline Red, another terrible round. Hadn't even thought about it until really thinking back. Obviously, yes, a bit of bad luck, etc., etc. But when that Team Redline Red car was one that we were looking at to really properly contend for this title, or at least for the top 16.
Thought they'd be the favourites, if we're being honest.
Where are they? Not only have they not won, they've only had one podium, and they've been pretty bad in the other races. They only had that point-paying finish as well at Daytona. It's not their season.
No, it has very much not been the year that either Max Benecke or Patrick Coltsman would have wanted. Yes, they got the second last time out, but again, they have much higher standards for the two of them. Let's go ahead then and grab a look at your unofficial race results. Do remember, there might be post-race penalties, appeals that change things up here, but it is Valtteri Alander victorious for his second time in this BMW Sim GT Cup and Sim 120 Cup, but it's Kova's 3rd time winning a 2-hour sprint. Diogo Pinto will finish second with Reiner Talval rounding out the podium, while Gianni Vecchio and the Redline Blue car will slide down to 4th by virtue of the 5-second time penalty they've got. RHE, well, strong in qualifying, but multiple cars having issues. Florian Lebigra and Vlad Kimichev lead the RHE contingent 5th and 6th positions. Gabby Montoro 7th, with MSI getting some good points again on the board. Team Redline Yellow, Apex Racing Team and Kova complete the top 10, all scoring some valuable points on the road to BMW Sim Live. David Toth in 11th, the first driver to miss out on the points, with the Redline debut for Josh Thompson not going terribly on old tyres, and with the weight of the 5-second penalty looming over him, at least manages to come across the line in what would be 13th. Elvis Rankin, the young American, slides in front of him in 12th. Urano, Williams through the top 17, with Logitech, the Williams Academy car, and the PGZ Bombay Spice rounding out the top 20. RHG, Apex Academy, Sim3D Sport, and Team Fordzilla through the top 24, with Arnage, RHG Junior, that pole-sitting car that looped it by itself on lap number 1. Heartbreak for them, but really showing the pace that they've got. VG Racing Esport and Volante Racing through the cars that finish the race here today. We did see BS Competitions disqualification. They finished in 29th, with Edu Morales in the Obsidian Racing 13 car down in 30th. A big old field. Zenith Esports leading the contingent that retired here today. As we scroll through these names, Lewis, not sure we'll get a chance to chat with Valtteri Alander, even though he knows we'd always love to have a quick chat with him. But again, another dramatic race, another time where strategy has reared its head, and I've got to think, heading to Watkins Glen, a lot of drivers will be doing a lot of testing about the tires.
It's kind of the critical thing to do for it. The issue is with tyre testing, it's one of the hardest things to do in sim racing, realistically, when it comes to actually doing tyre tests. And the reason why is because to get faster on a track, all you have to do is go out there, do a few laps, and be like, well, that didn't work, let's try that on setup, let's try that on setup, let's try that on setup. with tyre strategy, the only real way to do it is by doing the time, is by sitting out there, basically spending 2 hours on a Friday afternoon or whatever doing that. Now I know that sim races, a lot of them we're told constantly they do this as quite some of them do this as a job. They're expected to do that kind of time in the week, but that is a large commitment to do in terms of practice. It's one that quite a few teams don't actually want to do because, let's be honest, it's not exactly enthralling driving around by yourself looking after others, and also sometimes it's not even that relevant because you're not battling with other people whilst trying to save the tyres and save the fuel, getting the slipstream to the car head. It's tricky.
It's the less glamorous side of sim racing.
It's boring.
Yeah, well, that's another way of putting it. I was trying to be a bit more diplomatic, but we're delighted to be joined by your race-winning duo, both $1,200 richer after a 2-hour sprint. Start with you, Matty. Starting that race, it was a crazy opening couple of laps there. Talk to us about what it was like surviving for you.
Yeah, it was surviving, especially at the start. I felt like I wasn't that fast at like first 10 laps or so, but I think the pace came to us towards the end. I managed to save quite a bit of fuel and tires there as well, so it helped Valtteri's stint.
Yep, that actually leads perfectly into my next question, which was about the tire saving. Of course, a big change for this GT3 car was the way that the tires respond. What does it mean for you as a driver trying to save the tires?
Well, for me, basically, it's just that I try to take the corner entries a bit easy. I won't slide at any point of the corner. The exit is much easier to handle. Yeah, just taking care of the entry. That saves quite a bit of tires.
And Valtteri, heading over to you, I mean, you took over that car with about 13 seconds to make up, knowing the car in front didn't have the tires. How did you pace yourself through the stint? Because those last couple of laps, you picked up the pace to respond to the red line cars closing behind.
Yeah, it was basically flat out throughout the stint. Like I knew that I have to push if I want to challenge PS car at the front, and at least it worked out pretty well. So we had pretty good tires after Matti's stint, and we took the other side tires and decided that was the best way to go, and clearly it was pretty good strategy in this case. And yeah, it was so close at the end between the red line cars. Like I watched the relative and saw them catching like 3-4 tenths per lap. I was not sure that what's going to happen. Are they going to catch? And I tried to just keep it as clean as possible. But of course, when your tires wear out, it's not anymore that easy. But yeah, at the race.
Every time Lewis and I speak about you, Valtteri, we talk about you being an open wheel ace, but it's not your first win in this BMW sim competitions. What's it like for you, this new M4 GT3? Of course, we started with it last year in this BMW SIM GT Cup, but it's a different car to many of the other GT3s that people have driven here on iRacing.
Yeah, exactly. And basically our team has not driven other than the BMW, so basically we have quite good knowledge about the car, but I still think that we maybe lack on some areas, maybe not, I don't know, but of course this shows that we have the idea how to set up the car, and our team did today really well. Like, big thanks to Matti for the first stint, and of course Antti and Tuomas had pretty good pace also. Shame they had some trouble at the second stint. I think there was some accidents, or I don't know, have to talk with the guys.
Good day overall, good pace shown from you guys in this BMW M4. Congratulations on the victory, congratulations on the points, congratulations on the prize money. Go off and enjoy this one, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matti Siepela, Valtteri Alander joining us down in victory lane. And Lewis, I mean, again, I love the strategy, I love the action. You can never be disappointed if you join us on a Sunday morning for BMW Sim action, even if there are some other motor races going on.
And even if it isn't the morning, because it is definitely the afternoon here in Europe. But thanks, Arjuna. Obviously, you have to wake up a fair o'clock to join us for these races. But I mean, look, this was a really fun one. Again, it was that showing of the differing strategies that we've got, where we've got the 0 tyres, the 2 and the 4, and they all weren't that far apart at the end of the race. It really could have gone any way. Not sure where things are going to go in a month's time, though, at Watkins Glen, because that's a bit more open in that sense. But fuel saving, you're going to see a few trains, surely.
Surely. Here's a look at that schedule before we wrap things up. Again, 2 races in June, no races in May. Of course, it's a busy month of real-world motorsport, so we're not going to detract from the action there. You'll join us June 5th, Watkins Glen, then June 26th at Spa-Francorchamps, and then just a couple of weeks after that, we head to the Hockenheim, then a month's wait again. Some of these races split by considerable gaps in time for teams to reflect on their performance, to build forward, and then of course those final 2 rounds rescheduled as we get set for BMW Sim Live. Brought them a little bit earlier. Our final race of this 2022 BMW Sim GT Cup, the final opportunity for teams and drivers to get some points on the board on the road to BMW Sim Live. We'll head to the land of the rising sun. We've talked about it already. Let's talk about it very briefly once more. Next time out, round 5, we reach the halfway point in upstate New York. It's a new version of Watkins Glen, but there's not much that's changed for those that have driven this track in the past, Lewis. It's a new surface, some new curbs, some new track limits as well. It's still fast and it's still flowing, and it's a interesting technical challenge, I think, to set up your car here.
Yeah, obviously you've got to set it up for the straights, which there are a lot of around here. It is a big circuit. A lot of the corners, you roll through aren't that really difficult. You roll through turn 1, which is actually more tricky than you think it is, to how far wide you can run and still gain time. But then you're flat from that point all the way up to potentially the bus stop, to the carousel, that kind of section. The loop as well, the boot. There's a few overtaking opportunities on here. What we know is this track is really fast. Not that heavy on tyres. It's not great on tyres, but it's not super heavy. Fuel mileage is going to be critical. You're going to be looking for a lot of slipstream.
It will depend on the track conditions. We've seen scorching track temperature at Watkins Glen, upwards of 60 degrees Celsius. If we see that, tyres will very much be a hot button topic over the 2-hour sprint that lies in store for us June 5th. Same time, same place, BMW Esports RaceSpotTV, 1 p.m. UTC. Join us for BMW Sim Ignition again as Matthew Sadekis Trivet previews all the action leading up to the next round of the 2022 BMW Sim GT Cup. Again, we've been treated to a spectacle. 4 races, 4 enthralling days of activities. Still got plenty more to go on the way to BMW Sim Live again. For now, though, it is time to bid you farewell from the I-4 Mountains. On behalf of the team at BMW and RaceSpotTV, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. As always, delighted to be joined by the one, the only Lewis McLeod. We'll see you June 5th, 1 p.m. UTC for the next round in upstate New York. For now, we congratulate Kova, Valtteri Alander, and Matti Siepler, winners again in the BMW Sim GT Cup.